Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and we're honoring John Dehlin's 20th anniversary on YouTube. John had already podcasted some and released the podcast, however he did it in 2005. And then YouTube was this newfangled thing, and he released 4, I think, shows all at once. I'm sure it's not good for the algorithm nowadays, but that's what he did on September 4th, 2005. And I have in the studio with me, in the virtual studio, Anthony Miller. Anthony, thanks for keeping me company for now.
Thanks for inviting me.
And so I'll just say that John Dehlin has been so important to me. 12 years ago, I was struggling with some things. John had a sort of stay Mormon thing going on. He was talking about you can go to church, you can hold your wife's hand. If somebody says something you don't agree with, just let it slide and just make it a date, right? So I did that for about a year and a half, and then Kate Kelly got excommunicated, and I stopped paying tithing. And then John Dehlin got excommunicated 6 months later, and I told my wife I can't attend a church that would excommunicate a woman for having a thought and speaking it, and then excommunicate a man for letting other men and women having thoughts and speaking their minds. And so that's what happened to me. So I will be forever in debt to John for helping me. And then once he got excommunicated, he started to change his tone a little bit, but I actually didn't even hear those until COVID summer. I finally caught back up. I think I would catch one every couple of months and hear somebody's story and think, oh, that's really sad that somebody lost their testimony, right? Even though I had, right? I still had hope for Joseph. I still had hope for Jesus. I just thought the quorum of the 15 were just running the church into the ground, like a lot of people. And like a lot of people is Peter Bleakley thought that. So he started a podcast called Mormon Civil Wars. And he's going to be, we're going to air his message on in a little bit. But Anthony, tell us, and congratulations to John. I guess I didn't say that. So
for sure,
everybody, we're going to try to congratulate John for longevity. I'm pretty sure it's one of the few, maybe the only one that has been on that long. I don't know how long a break John took, and I don't know if that counts towards something in the yearbook, but he's in the trophy book. But he anyway broadcasts every year, I'm pretty sure, for the last 20 years. And so, yes, thanks, John. And Anthony, tell us about some of your John Dehlin stories.
Yeah, so my story, some people have seen my Mormon Stories interview from August of 2019. More people, it seems, are aware of my TEDx talk that I gave a few years ago, Thriving and Building Community After a Faith Crisis. Easy to find, just Google or search on YouTube, Anthony Miller TEDx talk. But I was all in, a believer. I had many spiritual experiences, attributed meaning to my experiences, that was God giving me reliable divine witnesses of the truthfulness of the church and its core teachings and the things that I was doing and teaching as a leader in the church, as an ordinance worker in the temple during the times that I served a mission and so forth. And I was on the track. I was about to turn 50. I had served in many different positions and was planning my life so I could retire when I was around 55 years old and serve missions for the church. And because I'm really analytical, I had a very heavy shelf of lots of disconfirming information and things that were problematic, but I so much believed and prevented my shelf from collapsing because of the meaning that I attributed to my spiritual experiences. Well, on April 29th, 2016, our son came out to us as gay. He was 22 years old. And I couldn't metaphorically shelf the implications that God would want him to live a life completely absent the kinds of comprehensive love and relationship that my wife and I share. That just seemed too cruel. So I went online to search for resources as to how a believer could support a gay son. And somehow in my search that Friday evening, on my iPad, sitting at home on the bed in the master bedroom, I stumbled across the Church History Gospel Topics essays. And as I read them, I discovered, I didn't know they existed, so it was new to me. It was a little bit of a shock that they existed. And as I was reading the essays, I was noticing that the writers were kind of spinning a narrative and not necessarily being fully transparent. But that made sense, that they would teach a faithful narrative. But as I, in particular, read the Race and the Priesthood essay, particularly a paragraph with footnote 9, where Brigham Young is represented as essentially prophesying that blacks would receive all the blessings of the priesthood and more. I had never heard that before in all my teaching and reading. I attended BYU, went to institute and seminary, all the things. And so I followed the footnotes to that and read the speeches from Brigham Young. And as I read those speeches, recognized that for the brethren, spiritual experiences hadn't been reliable sources to discern truth. And I recognized that there wasn't really a mantle of discernment. That was a big part of my testimony, that priesthood and mantles of discernment. And I also recognized that my spiritual experiences had corresponded with many things that were partially or entirely inaccurate. And as I read that, I recognized that the meanings that I attributed to my spiritual experiences were not true. And it wasn't only not true for me, it wasn't true for the brethren. And that is when everything collapsed on me. It was a very quick, acute experience. And I went to consume the balance of the essays to try to make sense of things. I searched online for reviews of them or something about them, and I found Mormon Think. And then as I read Mormon Think, it referred to things on Mormon Stories. And so I went to Mormon Stories, and that evening, it was multiple days long with almost no sleep, I watched the Jeremy Reynolds episodes, and I watched the Tyler Glenn episodes, and I also ended up reading the CS letter. So I had this like huge acute crash, complete identity, faith, and existential crisis, crying myself to sleep, tons of pain, trying to figure things out. I had only in my life ever seen one person go through a faith crisis. It was about a decade earlier over Book of Abraham issues. And I couldn't believe that his name was Steve. I couldn't believe that Steve would like give up his eternal family over something that we'd surely gain further light and knowledge about someday.
Yeah. Well, all the mysteries we'll find out when we die.
Well, yeah, that's easy. We'll get the answers to that. And so, so the first thing with John's work in Mormon Stories was I went back and I watched episodes that he had before his excommunication that included Richard Bushman and Terrell Givens and others that were faithful scholars and members. And during those years that he was recording those, John was working to try to help people stay in the church. He was, he had the Stay LDS website and things like that. He was the one going to Sunstone giving Why I Stay talks. And I watched those, and that kind of validated some of the things that I read in the essays and the things that I began to learn about. And then as I watched the stories like John McClay and his wife and others, it really validated the experience that I was going through. So it was helping me not feel like I was going insane. So that was in April. And then by June, I was fortunate enough to meet Lindsay Hansen Park in person, and she told me I should go to Sunstone in July. And so by July, I went to Sunstone, but I went a little bit early so I could go to what is now called the Waters of Mormon Facebook group. They had, I think it was like a Tuesday evening meetup at the Daughters of Utah Pioneers. I think that's the name of the facility. And listened to Gina Colvin there and saw other people from the water, what is now the Waters of Mormon group. And then the next day I went to a faith crisis support workshop that John put on. And Gina Colvin and Thomas McConkey were there, and Thomas's fiance was there also. And that was critical to helping me exit from my multiple month-long dark night of the soul. And John was so great. He was so great working to help me process the pain and the grief that I was going through. And through the balance of that week attending Sunstone, I was able to leave completely having exited my dark night of the soul. When I was in all of that, I would have discovered all of those things, whether or not John had a podcast, right? I would have found the essays regardless. But the work that John did helped me process my grief and process my faith crisis a lot faster and with a lot less pain than I otherwise would have during that time. And then John and I, we developed a relationship over time, and I consider John a friend. I was very grateful to be on episodes on Mormon Stories in 2019 and 2020, and to donate to Open Stories and spend time with John in person at his home and with other people and other venues. I think I couldn't do what John does because I feel like I experienced too much vicarious trauma, I think, from everything. But I just, no one's perfect. People criticize John. John accepts criticism. He accepts my criticism. But the work that he does and the public nature that he is and everything that he's done has helped so many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And so to the extent that he can continue to be in this space that can be really painful for person's well-being, I am very grateful for John and what he's done. So anyway, that was probably a lot longer.
Yeah. So I remember seeing you on John Dehlin, and you were like, you presented something in a sort of bookish way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were describing, like, matter of factly, it could have been like the stages of grief or faith destruction, or whatever it was. And I never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was fascinating. And then we got to have you on our show last year where you were able to share a lot of your story. Yeah. And so anyhow, Randy has joined us.
Hi, Anthony Miller.
Hey, Randy. How are you doing today?
Great.
Excellent.
I'm happy to be here.
And Carrie Sweet is here as well.
Oh, so, yay.
Hi, Randy, Carrie. We'll hold off on your praises, and we'll let Carrie hop on real quick and let her blow some kisses towards John. How about that?
That sounds great. Can you guys
she needs to blow kisses our way too.
Yeah. Carrie is sweet on me, I think, for sure.
I like this beard. I just got home, so
I'm growing this. I'm going to donate this to Anthony for his toupee.
Oh no. But so Jean, you look great. Also, thank you for this opportunity. I have, like, in between patients today, I was writing something to say. And then I just got home. And so I'm sorry if my stuff isn't looking great, but I'm here.
Looks great. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. So if I pause, it doesn't mean I'm done. So you I wrote a poem. All right.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay. And if I cry, it's because it means a lot to me. So just bear with me. All right. Praise to the man who started a podcast, who cracked open the silence and questioned the church of his youth. Praise to the man who asked the hard questions. Is it better to die than live LGBTQ? Is a bishop required to raise a good child? Is it wrong to say out loud that doctrines don't jive with science and philosophy and ethics of man? He answered the questions which Smith never had. Praise to the man who stumbled while healing himself, whose family weathered each storm as our sisters and brothers navigated the abyss of post-Mormon life and each broken shelf. How many dark nights of the soul did his voice steady through earbuds, through Bluetooth, a calm in the chaos? How many virtual hugs from Margie? How many laughs? How many tears stitched into the fabric of our stories, the stories of us, the Mormons? Praise to that woman I knew less well, yet know completely because we've shared the same hell. Wife, mother, daughter in Zion, left crying for all the injustice and hurt that masquerades as virtue and worth. Praise to the evolving cast of co-hosts and guests who've taken to task the doctrines, the false history, the abuse, the scandals, and still holding space for trust in ourselves, each other, space for healing, for beginnings. Praise to the show, which has been in my ear while washing dishes, driving carpool, divorcing husbands, and embracing I'm queer. My dark soul of the night was long. It was lonely. It felt like the end of my hope, my spark, my joy. In that darkness, John, you were my friend. Praise to the man who could not leave Mormonism alone. He gave orphan saints a place to call home, to process, to grieve, learn who we are. It was brave to listen, an act to defy the control and demand of the top 10 and 5. A brother in arms, but those arms were not guns. They were placed around the wicked and shunned. Just a man, not exalted, not prophet, not priest, just a man. And that was enough to show us a choice. Thank you for 20 years, Mormon Stories, for giving us our voice. That was the end.
Beautiful. That was very nice.
I'm not sure how many other people have written poems to John.
Well, it's really to the whole production. But of course, John is the originator. He's the grandfather of it. So
the grand poobah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess he probably wouldn't want us to call him the grandfather of it, maybe the father, but I just made him older.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Carrie. You could stay on for a little bit longer if you want. Randy, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe how you first heard of John Dehlin?
Sure. John does not know Randy C. Watts from Adam, but I started my journey about my serious Exmo journey about 5 years ago. And it was when I was feeling the most alone without my community, my LDS community that I'd had my whole life. And I thought that I was the only one that had these questions and these doubts. And so I Googled ex-Mormon, and this flood came upon my computer. And the first podcast I ever watched was John Dehlin. And I couldn't take my eyes and my ears away from my computer, literally day and night. I watched episode after episode, and I thought, I'm not alone. I have a community here. I saw all the comments in the chats, and John's. You know what? It was about the time that Natasha was being excommunicated, so it was just before that, and he was there and so comforting to all those who were in doubt, and he's the one that gently led me into my world of Momo Nomo, as I call it, Mormon no more. And I'm very grateful to John for that. I know that having listened to the podcast that Gene did with him last year, he went through hell trying to get started. He had doubts. He, probably wanted to quit every day, I think he said, but he stuck with it. And thank the good Lord that he did, because he's helped so many people. I just have a great appreciation for John and all that he's done. And,
That's right. He created space for future podcasters.
Yeah, I'd like to say these things humbly in the name of Gene Judson. Amen.
There you go. So I have recorded a few people's comments to John, and so we'll take everybody who's on the panel right now. Carrie, you can either stay on as long as you want. When we add other people at some point, you can leave if you have stuff to do. But the first person I'll add is Ganesh, and we will get Ganesh's story really quickly here. And if everybody put your mics on mute while this goes, it'll be better.
Oh, this is my great admiration for Mormon Stories, and for you, John. This is an incredible milestone. 20 years is phenomenal. There's not many things that last that long. Parenting sometimes doesn't last that long. Marriages often don't last that long. Hopefully our breathing lasts that and more. But it's, what a great moment in time to reflect what Mormon Stories has done and how it has changed the Mormon landscape, and given rise to a number of people's iterations and their comments on the faith and its practice, and particularly in Utah, where it's ever present. I've been on Mormon Stories twice, and it's been an incredible experience both times. John and Margie were just so compassionate and thoughtful. They ask good questions. They're engaging. They offer pushback and clarification, and that makes Mormon Stories dynamic. But it also means that he's asking the questions that people want to know, and he's getting the answers that they are really seeking for. I once had someone talk to me about the idea that if you're going to find fulfillment in your life, you should do something that is both compassionate and creative. And Mormon Stories has tackled a number of different subjects and involved thousands of people who have shared their stories, but also been compassionately welcomed into this space to, relate their experience. And that has made the channel engaging. It has given it longevity, but probably most importantly, it's incredibly helpful, especially when you're going through something which often feels very isolating and incredibly hard. So thank you so much. I know that there is a lot that gets done behind the scenes, both in the program itself and also in John and Margie's life, as they work to make sure that people are cared about and that community gets created, and that's a real sign of both maturity and a deep commitment to care, which has all of my respect and more. And so thank you so much, and look forward to the next 20 years. And hopefully sometime along that path, John, you'll get white hair like me. So that's my parting jibe.
Hi.
Hi, Gretchen.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
I couldn't get on because I had to remember my Facebook username password. I made that up like 20 years. I was like, I don't remember that. So I had to get on a different way. I figured it out.
So Gretchen appeared on Mormon Stories about 3-4 years ago.
2021, February of 2021. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
After COVID hit. So, yep.
So your Mormon story was impactful to me because, and then being friends with you on Facebook, because to me, you were living life. You were expressing yourself and not caring what the world thinks. And you were sort of being free from patriarchy, free from dogma, free from control from other people. And I really appreciated that. And so
That sounds about right.
want to say your thanks to John and how you got to be on Mormon Stories, or how you started listening to Mormon Stories and what it meant to you.
Sure. So I'm single now, but back when I was married, we did a lot of studying together. We were always the couple that was ready for Sunday school class. We read the actually assigned chapters and added on to that. Anyway, I'm an insomniac, and my husband at the time would put on podcasts, which at the time, like, I didn't even know what podcasts were, how to access them, where to go to get them. This is like 20 years ago. And he would go right to sleep. And if I reached up and tried to turn off the podcast, it would wake him up. So I just lay there, have to finish the whole thing. And I didn't like it at first. I was like, he's listening to anti-Mormon literature. This is terrible. Anyway, we actually studied a lot. And then we took a break from it and then came back to it. And Mormon Stories really gave me kind of what I think it was Anthony was saying, that I was going through this major crisis in my life. And here I had 8 children. I'd homeschooled. I taught all my kids to read from the Book of Mormon. I had just been this like diligent, faithful servant of fucking nothing. I'm like, ah! And listening to the podcast, it was interesting because it went from, this is anti-Mormon, I can't believe they're talking bad about Joseph Smith, to like, oh my God, what did Joseph Smith do? Is this really true? Because if this is really true, either God's fucked, and I don't like this God. Sorry, use the F word, but I was that mad, And listening to Mormon Stories, you really got to hear people vent. And then eventually, I did what all ex-Mormons do, a Relief Society type thing, is I wrote a children's book series based on Stephen Hassan's Bite Model. Started out as one book, Protecting Children from Unethical Persuasion. Ended up being 8 books, and John just found out about that and reached out to me. So that's how I ended up on the show. And it was a lot of fun. My life, I'm actually, since then, I graduated with my master's in psychology last summer. I'm 2/3 of the way through my PhD in psychology. It's trauma and resiliency. My life has been a shit show since I was on this show, and a lot of that had to do with me being on this show. I didn't realize I was a Mormon housewife. I had no understanding of Facebook. I hadn't used Facebook before. I didn't know people would see my story. Like, I thought 5 or 6 people would see it, So, but I'm a real big believer in growth mindset, and I would rather believe in something that's true and stand for it and be the only one standing there and be alone than be in a group of people feeling unheard and having to keep my mouth shut, which is what I talk about on my Mormon Stories a lot. So John gave me that opportunity to be seen and heard, which a lot of women don't get that opportunity. So, and everything, his work, I feel like anyone that's ever been listened to even just one podcast is affected greatly, and because everybody's story is so unique and so impactful, and everybody has some part of their story, I feel like, that connects with someone else, and it could just help them get through that grief stage, get through that trauma stage, and understand it's normal to go through grief, normal to be angry, normal, and not feel bad about it. So I didn't prepare a poem or anything, but I could sing. I'm just kidding, I can't sing.
Wow, Gretchen, congratulations on your magnificent accomplishments. That
Thank you.
is incredible.
That's right. So thanks, Gretchen, for your story. If you want to stay in, you can stay in. If you have things to do, you can go.
I'm running kids around, so I only had time to pop in, but thank you so much for having me, and kudos
Thanks
to
a lot,
you.
Gretchen.
Thank you.
So I do
Bye-bye.
need to run to my next thing, but thanks, Gene, for having me on and inviting me to celebrate.
Yeah, you can end your stream or you can keep it going.
All right.
It's okay with me.
See you, Anthony. Big fan. Love you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye, Anthony.
See you, Randy.
So we're going to share this screen.
All right. Yeah. So
Hey, check
John
you
was
out.
so good to me in so many ways. He knows my sister, Janae Thompson, better. They've collaborated. They're both on the HBO Jody Hildebrandt show that just came out. But even before all that, I always thought John was just a great facilitator. If you watch his stuff, he doesn't just do what I often do, which is get caught up in the content in the moment, but he's very aware of multiple types of people that watch his show, and he'll pause and be like, well, wait a second, someone who's faithful would say it this way, or can you explain what this is to someone who's never been Mormon? And I find him endlessly watchable because of his high emotional intelligence. That's the first thing I want to congratulate and thank John for. But yeah, this picture that was shown up there is when I attended Thrive. It was about 6 months after I decided to distance myself from the church, and I was still trying to find community. And Thrive was just such a great group of people to find and go to. It gave me all this courage to actually, take some stances, set some boundaries, not engage with certain people and friends. Because I before Thrive, I didn't know I had any options. All my neighbors, virtually all my family and friends, all true believers in the LDS faith.
Do you remember what year?
The amount of community and open-mindedness and other possibilities that John opened my mind to was just a godsend, really. What'd you say?
What year about was that Thrive?
That was summer of 2023.
All right.
Kendall,
I lost my testimony September 2022, but I was in that phase of like, oh, well, maybe it's not true, but it's still good. And then in February, when the SEC fine of $5 million for them hiding billions of dollars for 22 years came out, that was when I was like, I can't support this church anymore. But I was kind of left flailing as far as like, I don't have anywhere else to go. Like, it was just like Elder Ballard foretold of like, where will you go? I didn't know. But I connected with a few people on Facebook. I heard about Thrive. I attended Thrive and this other support group called Calm, and it was really good. But going back to John, when I lost my testimony in September, one of the first things on my list to do that I thought I had to do was announce my new findings to everyone. Oh, it's Shalise. Hello.
Hi guys. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. And so I told 6 people of like, look what I found out, guys, about the church. And I was just so confused and kind of thrown off of why none of those conversations went at all well. And so I found another one of John's videos, and he told me about the cricket effect. I don't know if you guys know that video where he's like, expect crickets from people. Like, people still in the church, they don't want to know what you learned. So either they're going to fight against you or they're going to say nothing. And so anyway, that whole video just kind of tempered my expectation. It was like, cool your jets. You don't need to announce it to everyone, and just kind of be wise as far as your approach on an individual basis. His LDS discussions series absolutely changed my life, as did he was the one that introduced me to Stephen Hassan. And I'll say one more thing about John. He possesses perhaps the highest quality that any human being can possess, which is he will change his mind in light of new facts. And I really look up to him for that. So that's essentially what I had to say. And thank you, John, for all the work you do.
That's right. Kendall, how long can you stay on?
I have about 12 more minutes.
Okay, so you stay
Hey,
on.
Kendall, I'm kind of digging the beard. You're looking
thank you.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, what's with
learning how to trim it.
Shalice? Shalice, you didn't get the memo that beards were required.
Whoops. Maybe next time.
That's right. So now we'll let Shalice give blow John virtual kisses. Is that what you're planning?
Mwah. I actually just saw John in Utah not that long ago, maybe last week. He's an awesome human being. He, as far as my journey goes, and I'll keep it short, but I really didn't discover him until years after leaving the church. I left, I think I was like 20, so 2011-ish. And it wasn't until 10 years later when I started writing my memoir, I realized I should really know about Mormonism for sure. If I'm going to write about it, I need to make sure I get the facts right. And that's when I realized I knew nothing about Mormonism because I started looking into ex-Mormon podcasts, learning as much as I could, falling into rabbit hole after rabbit hole, really understanding that I knew nothing and my eyes were just blown wide open. And that's when I was introduced to John. And that was around the time that I started my YouTube channel, Cults to Consciousness. And he was gracious enough to come on the show when we were still a little baby channel. And so we've had a great relationship ever since. We've swapped back and forth. I've been on his channel, he's been on mine, and he was just part of something that we're filming, which is really exciting. Can't say much about it, but he's just such a great guy, so level-headed. For doing this for 20 years, it's pretty amazing that he can keep up that energy and that excitement and that passion for it that all of us ex-Mos desperately need, and people who are transitioning as of now and need someone to look up to and need that rock and that foundation. And so I think that John does a really great job of bringing in a calm, level-headed approach to things, and he gives people a space to feel comfortable enough to open up for 3 hours. That was my interview, 6 hours for some people. And I think what he's doing is just so integral and so important. And so congrats, John, on 20 years. It's amazing.
Yeah, Shalice, how did you hold John to under 5 hours?
Well, I was 38 weeks pregnant, so that was part of it. I was like suffocating, trying to breathe in the chair. But
That's not
yeah,
a secret very many people can utilize.
yeah, it was fun. And I think we even recorded something for my channel before that. So we probably did spend 6 hours in the chair, but just for separate videos.
Right.
Shalice, I'm Randy, by the way.
Hi, Randy.
I'm kind of fanboying it right now because I've watched your work and absolutely loved everything you've done.
Thank you.
You were one of the ones that I started watching when I made my transition out of Mormonism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you've helped me a great deal. So it's really an honor for me to be able to share this Brady Bunch stage with you here.
Thank you. Wow, that's so great
your
to
video
hear.
series with the Amish people, I had no clue all the parallels and similarities. That really was such great videos. You do great work.
Thank you. Yeah, the Amish, it's one of those things where you don't realize what's going on behind closed doors because it's such a romanticized society. And so
I had
people
no clue.
truly have a backwards idea of, and of course there are some Amish who live wonderful, healthy, happy lives, but that's just not the case for a lot of people. So it is pretty wild.
Yeah, and Shalice, you are expecting again?
I am, yeah. So we just found out I actually miscarried a couple months ago, which was really rough, but we just found out like 2 weeks ago that I'm pregnant again. So yay.
My wife always reports on your health to me.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah,
I'm
a lot of people don't know that I miscarried because I should have been in my second, almost third trimester by now. So we are carrying another one. We just saw the heartbeat today, so we're very excited.
that
I'm
is
very sorry for your loss,
Thank
Shalise.
you.
I know that's a difficult time.
Yeah, it's rough for sure. But as the saying goes, the show must go on. So we just keep churning out the content, keep trying to platform as many people as possible. And thank you guys for what you're doing. I think it's amazing, shedding light within Mormonism and also celebrating John. I think it was a great idea to bring some creators together and lift up the OG, the GOAT of Mormon space.
That's right. He's the pioneer. I could just
Yeah.
imagine John with a bit longer beard pulling a handcart across the ex-Mormon podcast,
Oh my
blazing the
gosh.
trail for us.
That's so funny.
And
Yeah, he's
my
great.
recollection is that when you went on John's show and was able to tell your story, first of all, talking about mushrooms and Mormons a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What was the name of that?
Yeah, Mormons on Mushrooms podcast
Mormons on
that I was
Mushrooms.
kind of kicked out of.
It took me like 2 or 3 years from hearing that, but I finally did do some medicinal
Oh,
growth.
nice.
And nothing special happened. I didn't have a very good guide situation, and that's another story. But that's one thing that because of you was like an extra little thing to try to help me out. And so
Oh,
I've been
that's so
doing
cool.
some microdosing, and sometimes I feel like I can do more things, and sometimes I feel like I'm my old self and the mushrooms aren't working, but you just never know, right?
Your
Yeah.
problem, Gene, is that you're buying your mushrooms at the grocery store,
There you go.
The wrong type of mushroom.
right?
No, I definitely think that psychedelics do have a place in healing if that feels right for you. It's not right for everybody, but I do think that they can be such an amazing tool, especially when in high control groups we're used to this insane amount of control, and it really just helps break out those boundaries and push things open and bring you to new perspectives that you wouldn't have otherwise reached on your own potentially. It's great.
And like I say, my recollection is you maybe had like 20 something thousand subscribers, and John had 40 or 50,000, and you were on a show. And then couple of years later, you passed him up. And do you know how many subscribers offhand you have right now?
I want to say around 334,000.
Yeah, I was going to say 330 if you couldn't remember. And then
Yeah.
the second question is, can you name them, your subscribers?
Can I name my subscribers? No, I cannot. But they are amazing, and I feel fortunate to have been able to build a community who is so loving and generous in the comments, because I know with social media that's near none. Most people are just so crazy and mean in the comments, little trolls. But we're lucky to have, I would say, at least 90% positive comments from our community. So it's really cool to be able to share a space with you guys, with John, with anyone who's really putting themselves out there in a big way, in a scary way, because exposing these groups is not an easy thing to do, especially emotionally. So I feel very fortunate.
That's right. And you and Alyssa both passed up John recently.
Alyssa just shot out from out of nowhere. She's amazing.
I heard she was in the Wall Street Journal.
She was. And the funny thing is, when we reconnect with her, so we connected with her maybe 6 months ago or something, when she was about 20,000 below us, and we're like, you're about to pass us, Alyssa. And she's just doing her thing. And then we reconnected with her when we moved to Texas, and she's like, oh yeah, we're moving to Austin. I was like, we just moved to Austin, and we found out we live 10 minutes away from each other. It's crazy.
Wow. How richly bizarre, huh?
So bizarre, but we love that we're next door neighbors, and we're gonna hang out next week.
Yeah, you should do shows like Picnicking with Shalise and Alyssa.
Yeah, we definitely want to do more collaborations. We've been doing lives on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and that's just riveting.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It almost makes you want to be Mormon again, right? With all these extra things you can do nowadays.
It's the PTSD. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be part of that culture, the Utah Mormon culture ever again. No thanks. Not for me.
My fiance Amanda just asked me not an hour ago, can we watch Dancing with the Stars this season? I'm like, I love Dancing with the Stars, but I thought you didn't like it. She goes, well, there's going to be 2 of the wives from Mormon
Of course.
Lives of Mormon
Secret
Housewives.
Lives of Mormon Wives.
Yeah, yeah. So I said, heck yeah, let's watch that sucker.
I wonder if John is going to have any of them on his show. Do you know if he has plans for that? I should ask him.
He probably hopes to.
I
They
think that would
probably
be
think-
interesting.
They probably each think they're too Mormon to be on Mormon Stories.
No, a few of them are ex-Mormon.
Okay, they're out. Okay, that's good. I'm not
Yeah.
keeping up as much as I should on that story.
It's fine.
Well, they all look like ex-Mormons. I mean,
Well,
You
the
know.
way they dress.
yeah, they don't really portray themselves as very Mormon looking, but good
It's
for them.
the progressive Mormonism that they claim to embody, which
Like-
to each, whatever you want to do is
Well-
as long as you feel good about it. That's all I care about. Dress how you want.
Whatever peels their banana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us, Shalice, what's on the docket for the few
Okay,
shows.
I've got to check out, guys. See you later.
Bye, Kendall.
Kendall,
Bye. Bye,
love
Kendall.
you.
Love you all. See ya.
Sorry, what was the question?
What's in store for your show, Cults of Consciousness, coming up?
Oh, coming up. Let's see. We just released an ultra orthodox interview. We have that part 2 coming up. We have a cult that is based in Africa that is basically scamming white women from California to come down and be part of this sex cult. We have what else? We just recorded like 20 interviews before we went and filmed for this doc. And so I'm like, which ones did we record? We have some Scientology coming up. Yeah, so many great guests. It's really exciting to uncover these different cults that you don't even know exist. The 12 tribes, I don't know if you're familiar with the Yellow Deli. I don't think they have any in Utah, but that one was a surprise to me. Maybe not total surprise because I had eaten at a Yellow Deli. It felt a little off, but the food was amazing. It felt like you were walking into a tree house. And then come to find out it's extremely culty. I mean, it is a cult, I would say, from
I watched
definition.
the documentary on them, and
There's a documentary. I didn't see that.
there's a documentary all about the cult and then the beginning of the Yellow Deli, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Well, what's interesting is most groups start off really culty and then get diluted over time, Mormonism. But the Yellow Deli started off pretty fine, and then it's like it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And they were hypothesizing, I think it was her son who I had on who grew up in it because his mom joined. He was like, yeah, there is rumor that the leader, or I think he's since passed, was a psychologist and wanted to see as a human experiment how far he could push people. And so things just started getting worse and worse. And that's interesting. Sadistic, but interesting too.
Nothing like being experimented on.
Yeah. With real people, real kids. I'm not for that at all.
That's right. Well, thanks, Shalice, for hopping on.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to do anything with the, what's that new series that John Dehlin is actually talking about today? I think it's An Inconvenient Faith.
Is that
It's a
Sorry,
new
continue.
series on YouTube, and it was put out by Dan Reynolds' brother, who's still in the church, but he knows that the way forward is for people that are in the church to not shun and hate on their family and friends that are leaving, because that just tears apart families. It's the opposite of what the church should all be about. It's the opposite of what Jesus would want if Jesus could be here.
Mhm. That's
He's always
cool. I
like-
haven't heard of that. I need
Yeah.
to check into it. John is promoting it right now. Was he in it?
Yes, he was. He was in it. Jim Bennett was in it. Some of the apologists that I'm blanking out. The guy that, do you remember any of the apologists that were on it, Randy?
I do not. I
Patrick
know.
Mason is one of them.
Yeah, I know. I've
Huh.
I've listened to some of them, and it's really interesting. I can't wait to see the finished product.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like the Christian side. There's like a Christian side of Mormonism and a Pharisaical side of Mormonism, even though people who love the Pharisees say that's giving them a bad name. but like the people
The
who,
Christians might say the same.
yeah, and but like the loving Jesus versus the authoritarian Jesus, the John Wayne
Sure.
Jesus that somebody wrote about recently, and so they're trying to soften up the crowd, the Desnats, and we'll see if it has any effect on them. Probably the people that are too far TBM are probably just going to write it off as anti-Mormon lies or something, that
Yeah.
people are influenced by Satan to do. Bruce McConkie told us to despise apostates, right? And so anyway, how long can you stay, Shalise, or do you have things
I
to do?
gotta pop off and put my baby to bed. But I just wanted to come on and give my appreciation to you guys for what you're doing for John. And of course, huge shout out to John. You're amazing. Keep doing what you do. I hope you never stop. Unless your sanity says otherwise.
Thanks so very much, Shalise.
And
Thank you, guys.
congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone who's listening.
So what do you think, Randy? That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I've always wanted to chat with Shalise, so I just got my first opportunity there.
So Ben Halafe is here, but I forgot to put in the chat. So Ben, if you can hear me, I sent you on Facebook the link. There's 2 links, one to the show and there's one to the backstage if you want to hop on. And I'll also, for people that are just listening and didn't get any messages whatsoever, I will put a link if you want to join from the chat. And so that should work.
Yeah, we've got some great people in the chat too.
Yeah, and I have 3 more recorded messages, actually 4. One's going to be a little bit hard for me to do it. It's going to be a different tech, and I hope it works out.
I'd like to address the people in the chat for just a minute.
Okay, are they naked?
What?
You'd like to address the people in the chat?
No, address them.
Oh, address
And
them.
I am naked underneath these clothes, but I just wanted to tell you that, this comprises what you're watching, a lot of work. Gene has worked several hours to get the word out to people, to call in and to make their video presentations and to come into the studio. We always try to have really high class guests, and you've seen that. It's really important, if you wouldn't mind, to just, while you're in here, click that like button. And if you're not subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe to Gene's Latter Daily Digest and my Momo Nomo channel. It's really important to us to get those subscriptions so that the algorithm recognizes how important these things are. And we really appreciate you being here. So click that like button and share this. People need to hear all this. This is good crap here.
That's right. Ben, I don't see you in the studio yet. I don't know if it's like you're connecting your camera or in your microphone, but let's see if we can get you on soon. If you need a couple minutes anyway, we could run another show. But Randy, you mentioned how John has helped you when you were lonely and you didn't know that there was a group of people. What has John done lately for you?
John, I don't know how he gets these guests that he does, but he gets guests that are unique with their stories. The general authority who has had his second anointing, and the former bishops and stake presidents, and people who, when, that Candid Camera show, when you least expect it, you're elected, it's your lucky day. Well, John gets these guests on here that really help me out by allowing me to relate to them. Like, okay, I'm not alone. Basically, that's the message. I'm not alone. He has shown me so many examples of people who finally got fed up and realized that what they've been doing for so much of their lives is for naught, because it's not a church. I truly believe that it's a cult, and so many of you do, and Yeah, and John has helped me validate that over and over and over again.
And with doing our watch videos that we did the last few days, now you're probably a better podcaster.
I think that I can really relate to some of the things because I just started up my channel.
Right.
Welcome.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Great. So
Every day above ground's a good day.
How many months ago? How many months ago did you appear on Mormon Stories? Like 6, 5?
4 months, 5 months ago. Yeah. 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah. It's crazy how quick time moves forward.
So tell us what Mormon Stories meant to you as you were deconstructing things, and then how the hell did you get on Mormon Stories?
All right. Well, first off, when I started to struggle with the church in 2022, all the way till I started listening to Mormon Stories in the summer of 2023, I felt like I was going crazy. I felt alone. I felt like, am I the only one struggling with all this stuff? And then a friend of mine recommended Mormon Stories, and it took me out of a dark spot because at that point I haven't told my wife Justine what was going on. She was a very strong Mormon, and I was afraid, because I kept listening to podcasts of people divorcing, and I didn't want to divorce my wife. I love Justine, and I was terrified. So when I started listening to Mormon Stories, it kind of gave me the courage I needed to tell her, because I didn't feel crazy. I felt like there was so many people going through the same things, and it got me out of a dark spot. I was very, very desperate for help. So that's what it means to me to have John and Margie and doing all that they do. Why did I apply for Mormon Stories and how did I get in? I have no clue. It was December of 2024. I was in the basement watching TV, and I don't know where I felt something. Can we say the spirit? I felt something like, I think it'll be fun if I apply to Mormon Stories, but not thinking I was going to get in. It was like one of those things, I'll just do it just to fulfill my desire to eventually do it. And 2 days to 3 days later, Margie emailed me, and I froze because I haven't talked any logistics. I'm all the way to Niagara Falls, Ontario. I have 3 kids, and this happened so quickly. We were like, whoa, this is for real? No way. But story short, me and Justine, we were able to go and do that, which was amazing, nerve-wracking. We went to Mormon Stories at the time where, it's kind of difficult to be in the States as an immigrant from another country, so we kind of risk it just because we felt like we needed to tell our story. And we're so deeply grateful to John and Margie for allowing us to do that. Funny story before I leave, though, when I started messaging John and Margie through email, I have not talked on the phone with them. I'm assuming they just like keeping things, wrapped up with just email communications, because you never know. So when I got to Utah and I went to do the interview, they were in there. They were not. I panicked because my dad kept telling me, hey, be careful. Somebody might be scamming you. And we get there. There's no John and Margie Dehlin. There is nowhere to be found. And I told my wife, I haven't talked to them. It's just been email. So there is a possibility we got scammed. So when they showed up, I'm like, okay, this is for real. But I'm happy and so glad that they do what they do. It's got to be so exhausting, when people put themselves on the line like that, inviting people, listening to their story on the daily. I mean, I knew I wanted to do something like that, but the moment I started I started, I feel like it's too heavy. It's way too heavy. So the fact that John and Margie are doing this is amazing. So thank you so much, guys, for what you do. And I hope that you guys got another 25 years of bringing people in and helping them out. So yeah.
That's right. Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah. You guys, good luck. We'll see you.
All right. Go watch baseball now. Ben's a great guy. He's been on our show. Kim D, do you want to talk about how you found John Dehlin and what Mormon Stories has meant to you? And we're going to have Matthew Harris, the author of Second Class Saints, is going to come on pretty soon, and he's in a very tight window. So if he comes up, then I'm going to put him right in and to say hi, and we can come back to you if that's okay. But go ahead, you start.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, in 2020, when my whole world fell apart, watching The Aftermath, episode 3, or season 3, episode 11 with the JWs. And that was what connected me to realize my whole life had been false. And it just was the piece that just made sense. And it seems kind of strange that something else brought light to me, but that's what it was. The combination of Scientology and the JWs just blew my world apart. And then at that same time, the church had said that they never taught us that we got a planet. And so, here we go. Go ahead, get going with Matt.
Go ahead, Matt. Kim is my friend, and she can come back to her story
anytime.
So go ahead.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. I guess this is a session to pay tribute to John Dehlin.
I'll let you go full screen, and then we'll come back at some point. But go ahead.
And I want to say to John, congratulations on 20 years of podcasting. I mean, 20 years of anything is incredibly amazing. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on having such a diverse and eclectic group on your program over the years. And I want to thank you personally for making church history transparent, making it honest and authentic, and allowing me to talk about my work. Had a lot of people ask me, oh my goodness, hours and hours, that must have been tedious and laborious. And I said, no, not really. And the reason is because, John, you're always prepared and you read my work very, very carefully, and you ask such insightful questions, and that just makes the experience all the more enjoyable. Anyway, so I've had 2 different long form sessions with you now. I guess Benson in a shorter aspect, and then the most recent one was Second Class Saints. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I appreciate your hospitality and your generosity and your professionalism. And I just want to wish you congratulations again, and hope you have 20 more solid years in you to keep doing this. Take care. Love you, friend.
There you go. And Matt, what do you have? Are you working on any books now?
I look tired, don't I, Gene? I'm always working on books.
A little bit.
You can see when you're dead.
I'm a big fan of your work, Matt.
Oh,
thank you for all the research you put in and delivered to us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm about halfway through a book now on a biography on Hubie Brown. So it's a warts and all biography of his life, and you name it, it's there. Depression, suicide ideation, children who left the church, conflict with his colleagues in the 12. I mean, and also his intense spirituality. You really get a well-rounded view of who he was as a person, and much to admire in him.
What's your anticipated publish date for that?
Oh boy, the question that no author wants to hear or ask. No, it's a fair question. Probably, I'm hoping to get a draft done by the end of the year. So it just depends on, obviously, other things. I've got 19 balls in the air at any one time. So, but I'm hoping by the new year I can have a good draft done. And then from there, it takes even more time because it goes through the editing process and pre-publicity and all of that, marketing and all of that. So it's still a ways out, but I'm giving bits and pieces of the book now. I have a pretty lengthy piece that the Salt Lake Tribune asked me to write just the weekend before General Conference. And so readers will get a sneak peek of some of the themes in that book there, talking about Hugh Brown's liberalism, and also I'm very subtle about it because I don't want to be bombastic, but revealing my politics to you guys, but that's okay. And I'm not very happy with leaders, including the church, the LDS Church and other churches, who are quiet as we see a fascist take over this country. You know, the brethren are just making themselves increasingly irrelevant with, don't put this on the air, Jane. Don't quote me in a soundbite when I say this. But anyway, the brethren, it's on the air. But the brethren are, I want them to speak out against what we're seeing today, against ICE raids, immigrant raids, just all of this stuff. And so I'm calling for the brethren to do something. And if Hugh Brown were alive, as I point out, he definitely would have been on the front line saying this isn't right. And certainly the church or any church can't solve this issue, but there is power in collective strength. And we've seen Catholics and Protestant faith leaders speak out. And I'm hoping that leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will follow suit.
That's right, Matt. You teach government, right?
I teach history, but I teach political history, legal history,
right,
civil rights, all of that.
The Constitution,
yep,
and all those things are part of history, and so you're aware of those things. There's, a prediction that the Constitution will hang as if by a thread, and I invite you to come on our show and talk about the dangers of the current political climate.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm tied up now. I've been planning this big conference for months, the Whitmer conference. It'll take place in a couple of weeks, and so. But I'd be happy to talk about what that means. This hanging by a thread nonsense within an LDS tradition.
That's right. Say hi to Ganesh and John G. Turner for us when you're there.
Oh, I will. Yeah. In fact, I invited John to come and talk about his book and to have a couple of respondents. So I'm thrilled that John will be there, and also Ganesh. I invited Ganesh to come, so I'm thrilled to see my friend Ganesh there. So
yeah, it almost makes me want to go now.
Oh, well, make sure you register. Love to have you.
That's right. I have to check the budget and the boss. We'll check with the boss.
That is a fair statement.
So thanks, Matt, for your time. Randy, do you have any other questions for Matt?
Matt, we just appreciate you coming on. We'll keep our eyes open for the Hugh B. Brown book that's coming out.
Well, good. Thank you, Randy. And Gene, thank you for this generous invite. I hope that this show honors John in the appropriate way. So it sounds like it is. So that's awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
So anyhow, it's fun to have those guys on. And now we're back to Kim. So Kim, if you can remember where you were. Sorry.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
We can.
Making sure. Just checking out my new audio thing. Anyways, no. From the Aftermath episode and then discovering Mormon Stories, it was right around the time when the church was saying they never taught about we get a planet or anything about that was misconstrued. And that's the only thing that kept me going was someday I can be the mother of this whole planet. So I was devastated, and those episodes really gave me an education, and I did what so many others do. I went back to the beginning of all of his podcasts because I was curious about what I had missed. I'm 60. He's been doing this over 20 years, So I did. I went all the way back and then slowly caught up over the past 5 years to where I've seen all of them. And I have my favorites and the Word of Wisdom one. There are so many things that Mormon Stories podcast helped me clarify and gave me a new vocabulary that was needed because the one I had was lacking. It was making me like a little kid, and I needed to grow up into a big world. And that's what John Dehlin and Mormon Stories has done. It's given me a little bit more to think about. And I'm grateful for that. I can't imagine anybody doing this the way he's done it. as long as he's done it. And that's part of my daily routine, is checking up on what's new. And the long form is fantastic. I used to dream someday I could be on Mormon Stories. And that's way too intimidating now. I'm happy here with you and the people we have. Bigger isn't always better. I like staying local. So,
I listen to John when I travel. Like if I'm driving to Seattle, I've got a 4.5, 5 hour ride. And that's the perfect time for me to listen to John's long form podcasts. So I have not seen all of them, but I've sure seen a bunch of them, and they've helped me a great deal.
oh, the word of wisdom, all the things I learned in the Erie Canal. I mean, so many pieces of the puzzle that were missing, and the fact that the episodes go off in so many different directions. It's not a negative. It's everything's been a positive. It's been an enlightenment, different kind of education.
Tell us a little bit more about with the Erie Canal influence.
Oh, the Erie Canal influence for me, I was never taught that Joseph Smith was unlearned. I was taught that he was uneducated. And there's a big difference between those two words. And the things I learned about the Erie Canal and about all the printing presses and all the way language was transferred over in different formats, the gossip magazines, the gossip print, all the different influences, and with his brothers. And it's just the fact that he wasn't unlearned. He was very smart. He had influences, and he picked and had the capability to remember an intricate amount of information and recall it.
That's
And
right. He might have had a photographic memory.
well, we
And I
laugh
have
at things like Big Bang Theory and Sheldon, but you think of it in a different format.
I have a slightly different sounding memory, but
hmm
but anyway, it's not quite photographic.
Not quite.
It's more like a handwritten note, maybe.
What is it?
Post-its.
It must be smoke signals because it seems to just come out of my ears and just waft away.
Kim, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
I've been able to converse with you in the past, and I know that you've joined the panel a lot of times with Tuesdays with Tim. But my question is, where did Rio for Life come from? Where did you get your name? What inspired that?
What inspired it is Rio is Rock It Out. One of the first things I did was become a cheerleader when I moved up, when I was away from the church and everything. And I'm self-declared cheerleader to the world, and I rock it out. And that's it. I
Nice.
rock it out for life. I want to bring that kind of energy into my healing and into my story and what I'm putting out there to let people know I'm 60. I'm only 5 years out of this little bubble that I've been in most of my life, but I'm gonna rock it out. There's
Rocket,
nothing that
baby.
there's
Yeah.
nothing that's gonna stop me the next 32 years of my life. And I have great examples from Jean and you and uh, Mormon discussion. There's just I can't even begin to tell you all the different people that inspire me to show a different type of healing and a different, my story is just different.
Well, see, I misinterpreted Rio being a Spanish speaker. I thought it had something to do with river for life,
No,
but I like rock it out even better. I'm
no,
WTH is my mantra. What the hell?
there you
Ever
go.
since I lost my wife to cancer, I took on this whole new attitude about life, and that's what the hell. Someone wants me to come visit him in Chicago. It's like, what the hell? Why not? Do it. Rock it out. enjoy life. I saw a sandwich that looked really good in San Francisco at a particular restaurant. And I called my son and I said, you know what? What the hell? Let's go have that sandwich. And we flew to San Francisco and ate that sandwich. And that reminds me a little bit of the rock it out, just live life, enjoy life, since we wasted so much time not enjoying life.
Yes. There's so much out. I just feel like I'm going to burst half the time, and the other half the time I'm terrified of everything around me because it's all so new. And it's developing that new identity, but it's mine. I'm creating this. And there's something exciting and wonderful about it. And I will admit, terrifying, especially sharing it in this type of format that's kind of foreign and surreal in so many ways. But I'm doing it and I'm loving it.
Good for
And
you.
I'll keep getting better at it little by little.
That's
But
all we can do, right?
I'm going to definitely tag out. I'm recovering from being sick. Oh, it's like day 3, so I prettied up just for you. So
You look great.
thank you. So you guys take care, and I'll be listening.
Bye, Kim.
Bye.
Well, how about that, Mr. G-Spot?
There you go. Got another author that's currently going in a series with John Dehlin about his book on Joseph Smith. I think it's called The Rise and Fall of Joseph Smith is what my recollection is, but I hope I get that right. I'm also going to look for something. If any podcasters are out there and want to help John promote his book, John G. Turner, let us know. I'm going to play John G. Turner now, and it's about 5 minutes, and we'll come back, Randy, when this is over.
All right.
Congratulations, John. 20 years of Mormon Stories. That is just amazing. Not a lot of people have the talent and the persistence to do what you've been doing for so long and so well. So I'm really happy for you and your community. I'm also thrilled that you take the time to talk to people like me, scholars who have an interest in Mormonism and Mormon history. I've had so much fun mixing it up with you about all things Joseph Smith and delving into all of the details of his remarkable story. I love your hard and blunt questions, but also your willingness to explore things, explore hard topics from lots of different angles. I also really appreciate the fact that Mormon Stories isn't only interested in the story of luminaries like Joseph Smith, that you invite all sorts of people to sit down and tell their story. I've learned a lot from listening to those stories, and wish you many, many more years of sharing them with me, with your community, and with the thousands of people who are interested in them. So congratulations and keep it up.
That was a nice little presentation. I think that Gene Judson might have taken a potty break. I don't know. But this is really a fun opportunity for me to get to hear others talk about John Dehlin and about what he's done for them, because I know he was a hell of a good influence on me when I started wavering away from the church and thinking that I was all alone. It was a pretty scary thing. You know, I had this community as a member of the LDS Church, and that's all I lost when I left the church was the community. But I gained a much better community in the Exmo world. I gained a community where I actually feel people's love, where I feel a camaraderie with my fellow, and I shouldn't say fellow, but my peers that are also ex-Mormon or leaving the Mormon church or having doubts. I've grown so close to so many of you out there, and I've been so accepted in this world. It's like I haven't lost any community. I've actually gained a community that I'm head over heels for. And, you know, we really appreciate those of you that are in the chat watching us. And if you get a chance, you know, maybe share it, click the like button. I just started my channel, the Momo Nomo, and I'm actually starting a TikTok channel along with that called Momo Nomo, so that, you know, I have a TikTok channel on grief. And grief is what I usually talk about when I'm a guest on podcasts. Well, that's not the only thing, but it's amongst the things. And, but the Momo Nomo is going to be about those of us who have left the church. And it looks to me like we are joined by Mr. Backyard Professor. Mr. Backyard Professor, how in the heck are you?
Randy, I am the heck fine. How are you?
Every day above ground's a great day. That's what I
Yes,
say.
it is.
I think Jane took a potty break, but we're so glad you're here.
Well, I'm grateful that I was invited to at least say hi and give my 2 cents on John Dehlin, whoever he was. Oh,
right? Yeah, you've heard of him, right?
John Dehlin. I think he's the guy that owns J.C. Penney's or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Look at that beard on Gene, dude. You're looking fabulous.
Right? He's growing
Randy's
up, our
got the
Gene.
goat, and you've got the full beard, and I've got the stash. There you go. So I can't stay for very long, but I do have something I would like to say about our dear friend John Dehlin, if that's okay.
Please.
There are 2 items. Now, I have not had the fortune yet. It'll take me the rest of my life to listen to all of his astonishing interviews with people. He has had the best of the best, without question. The 2 that stand out the most to me, that meant so much to me, were the Michael Coe Book of Mormon interview and the Robert Rittner Book of Abraham Egyptology interview. And then he did I was able to do one discussion with him and Gerardo on the Book of Abraham. And then he had that one gentleman, Mike, and they did an entire series throughout the entire Book of Abraham. And that series was simply over the top spectacular. But I think publicly one of the lesser known lights that needs to be thanked and acknowledged is H. Michael Marquardt. Truly a gentleman's scholar and a scholar's gentleman. That man has been intrepid on the Book of Abraham for decades. And as he is lesser known, but he is so important of a voice in the Book of Abraham, he was invited by Robert Rittner to write one of the chapters on the Book of Abraham in his book, in Rittner's book. What an honor, you know. Here we are with world-class scholars And then most people see H. Michael McQuart's name and they ask, who is he? Are you kidding me, man? I'll tell you the key of why I'm so appreciative of Marquardt. His chapter in Rittner's book and Dan Vogel's book on the Book of Abraham apologists and their arguments, those two sources, for whatever reason, now I was an apologist for years in favor of the Book of Abraham, and I had absorbed the muddy waters of Book of Abraham materials. I'll put it that way. I still did not understand the relationship we were deliberately told and taught, and we read everywhere we got our hands on from the Farms people and the BYU Studies people, and even some of the Sunstone articles, that the relationship is guessable and we didn't understand it and all. It was Dan Vogel, it was Robert Rittner, and it was H. Michael Marquardt who finally clarified it for me personally. The light bulb went on of why we now know we have the original Book of Abraham papyri that Joseph Smith himself translated. It was the original Book of Abraham papyri that came back to the church in 1967. It was the one that Joseph Smith said he translated the Book of Abraham. The light bulb went on for me in H. Michael Marquardt's chapter, in Dan Vogel, and in Robert Rittner. The apologists, to date, we are in 2025, over a decade, since Rittner wrote his book, and they still have not responded to that argument. They can't. Agreed. The apologists love to put Rittner in the footnotes. They'll mention the name, make him look like, oh yeah, well, I've studied everything. I've studied Robert Rittner. I've studied H. Michael McQuardt. I've got Dan Vogel. I've got everybody. I've done a complete exhaustive source. And the Book of Abraham is still a true book of ancient history. Don't you kid yourself. The apologists have never discussed and refuted Robert Rittner, Dan Vogel, and H. Michael Marquardt. They can't. The evidence is that solid. And I'm very grateful for that. So I wanted to give a personal thank you to H. Michael McQuardt. He's a good friend of mine. I've had him actually over to my house, and he gave us a wonderful lecture. We had a gathering in my living room here a few years back when the Joseph Smith Papers book came out on the administrative records that showed and proved that Heber C. Kimball, Brigham Young, Orson Pratt, Joseph Smith, and others all had themselves anointed king. And I thought that was a vicious rumor until that came out. H. Michael McQuardt came and gave us a lecture on that, brought his book, showed us the sources. I had the book, so I was able to cross-check things and write. It was a fantastic meeting. But
Backyard Professor, I anointed myself king as well, and it didn't affect my wife's treatment of me one bit.
It did my wife. She said, now as king of the house, get your ass over there and get those dishes done.
And so, Backyard Professor, what do you recall about the early days of John Dehlin and Mormon Stories? Because you were trying to defend the faith at the time.
Yeah.
And what did you think about it?
I had the inside story of how John Dehlin got his start from none other than the man who made John Dehlin, Daniel C. Peterson. If Peterson would have just shut up and stopped his antics, John Dehlin wouldn't have come into the fore. We would have never had John Dehlin. So, sincerely, we need to be grateful to Daniel C. Peterson, because him and Midgley and several of the Farms boys, as I used to call them, actually began attacking John Dehlin, and they wrote a hit piece on him. And the night before that was going to be published in the Farms Review of Books, John Dehlin contacted Jeffrey Holland. Apparently, I'll be happy to be corrected, but Daniel Peterson was not aware that John Dehlin was very good friends with none other than the apostle Jeffrey Holland. Dehlin got word that they were doing a hit piece on him because he thought differently than they did. And he came to conclusions about the Book of Mormon and stuff that Dan Peterson didn't like. And so they began attacking him. That was when Farms had devolved into attacking other church members for not coming to the same Mesoamerican conclusions of the Book of Mormon geography that Farms did, and the Book of Abraham arguments and all. Anybody who disagreed with them got attacked on a personal level.
So they were
John Dehlin got word of that and said, wait a minute, why are you attacking me? He went to Holland, and Holland contacted someone at Farms and said, that piece is not going to be printed. Is that clear? And they pulled it.
Wow.
And from that point on, John Dehlin saw the line in the sand, and that was his beginning, in my opinion. Now, I'm happy if he wants to correct me on that, but that's my understanding from seeing for weeks in the private fair email list that I was a part of, the attacks against John Dehlin. I had never heard of him. I didn't give a flying flip. I wasn't interested in attacking people, but I did recognize that it was someone who came to odd conclusions from the brethren and from the apologists, and therefore they were worthy of attacking, and I never did get into that. But that was John Dehlin's beginning. So, yes, thank you, Daniel C. Peterson, because the work John Dehlin has done now is outrageously awesome.
As a historian, can you tell us about what year that was? As an old historian with a failing memory.
Hey, easy on the old and failing, even if it is gospel truth.
Just come
right on the spot. I'm embarrassed. You've destroyed my life. I'm going to sue you for damages.
You know, it's ironic that he says that, because I've just been waiting to say, BYP, that you must be living right because you look younger. Every time I see you,
that's kind.
I'm serious. Every time I see you,
I'll mail you the $20 here in a minute.
Yeah, but yeah. What do you think that was 2005 when?
Man, I'm not sure. It would have almost had to have been, because it was shortly after that. See, I went real quiet with Fair after I had my falling out with them, and they didn't know I was on their email list for about 8 months. And then someone found out, hey, Kerry is still on this list and he shouldn't be. And then they cut me off. But I got a lot of inside information that way by staying quiet. I have that on an old computer hard drive, but I don't know where I put it. I don't even know if I can access it anymore. But about those emails.
About what year did you get on the outs with that group? With Fair?
Oh, it was
roughly.
It was 20. I'm gonna guess 2010 or so.
Right.
Something like that.
Because I was going to say, John Dehlin had to have been podcasting for a little while for them to even for him to get on their radar. And you say
he must
they were engaging in ad hominem attacks, and I always engage in ad synonym attacks.
Homonym is like a big corn, isn't it? Like big corn?
Hominy.
Oh, that's hominy.
If they can't defeat the argument, that is and this is so interesting, because the crazy part about all of this is if they can't answer the argument, they began to attack the person. But none of us ever agreed that was the accurate best way to do it, but they did it anyway, because Neil Maxwell told them, don't worry if it's the right answer. I might be wrong about attributing this to Maxwell, but he said, we just need to make sure we have answers. We don't care if they're strong or not. We just need answers. And that way you can point to the answers and say, yeah, these are the answers.
Hey,
in my opinion, that was one of my falling outs. I said, no, that's not good enough.
Can you stay on for a bit still and listen to Mormon book reviews, Steve?
Yeah, I need to shut up. And hey, Steve, I want to listen to Stephen. What about Joe down here, Korihor? He's proof the Book of Mormon is a historic. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And then I promise I will shut up. What John Dehlin has done is demonstrated conclusively through the absolute pinnacle scholarship of his interviewees, such as Michael Coe, Robert Rittner, etc., that the ancient historical aspects of the scriptures are probably not where the emphasis should be laid. That doesn't mean they're useless. That doesn't mean they're false. That just means they're not history. But Mormonism made the mistake of marrying history to their theology and scripture. But scripture doesn't have to be historical to be true. So it doesn't refute the Book of Abraham and the Book of Mormon. And I know I'm going to be taken out of context here, I'm quite sure, by someone. Because it doesn't have to be history to be true. But the apologetic says it does have to be history or it's not true. But I don't agree with that anymore. I used to, but I don't. There's still great value in the Book of Mormon, the Book of Abraham, the Joseph Smith translation, the Bible, etc., but not because it's history.
Right. So
You've got a lot of background noise going on.
Yeah, we got to let Steve talk, because I'll say once Steve went on Mormon Stories, John experienced explosive growth. Right, Steve?
Well, but we forget how small Mormon Stories was when I went on Mormon Stories at the time. It really, and it wasn't because of me, obviously, but it has certainly exploded. I think when I was on Mormon Stories, it might have had like 20, 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. I mean, it's amazing how much it has grown. And yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with me. But, I wanted to say, actually, to hop on what Backyard Professor was saying there, and Exmo Joe would also agree with you that Korhor is true. So you're able to, look at the scriptures that way and actually find truth in a character in the Book of Mormon that you agree with, in this case, Exmo Joe, with Korhor, which is interesting. It's an interesting way of using scriptures that way. But I just wanted to say, going on Mormon Stories was really a wonderful experience. John Dehlin, I got on John Dehlin's radar, and I'm talking from my car, by the way. I'm on my way to my favorite watering hole. It's a NFL kickoff tonight. So I had around 23 subscribers, and I got on John Dehlin's radar when I did my very first interview with Rick Bennett of Gospel Tangents, and I had mentioned him. And I always have this thing where if I ever mention somebody on another YouTuber or another podcaster, I always give them the heads up. So I was able to track down John on Reddit and just wrote him a little note. And next thing you know, we're communicating that night. And next thing you know, when I had Richard Bushman on my show, was the first time we talked on the phone the next day. Like, who are you and how'd you get Bushman to come on? Because at the time, Bushman wasn't coming on people's programs. And then that September was the first time I got together with John with lunch. And it was me and Chris Thomas, who wrote a Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon, and myself sitting down for lunch. And I'd tell people, I said, I wish there was a camera there. Because it was the first time that John and I had a conversation. And it was invigorating. It was exciting. It was almost like I was watching Mormon Stories right in front of me, and he was sitting right across from me. And we had this great conversation, and there was crying. There was emotion. There was a lot of love there, and also an understanding of each other, where we were coming from, because John at first was a little bit hostile. Not hostile, but he just didn't know, like, okay, what's your game here? Like, what are you trying to do? And I explained to him, and then I just really had a good bonding moment with John, and continue to this day, being, more importantly, friends with John. I remember I had somebody from a faithful podcast come to me and say, wow, I just can't get why you are friends with John Dehlin. And I just simply said, well, don't you think maybe the Lord wants a person of faith in John Dehlin's life? They're like, oh. Like, sometimes they forget what it means to be a Christian, Like, you're supposed to love your enemies. You're supposed to, treat those, people, turn the other cheek and pray for those who despitefully used you.
John gave a shout out to Chris Thomas just earlier this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, Chris is a great guy. In fact, the very first book I ever reviewed on my channel was a Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon. And Christopher Thomas is a saint. I've kind of lost touch with him in the
Man,
last year.
you have Jewish rabbis talking about Joseph Smith favorably now, man. Holy cow. You're doing better missionary work than the Farms boys were.
I know, it's so funny. I've probably had at least a half dozen rabbis on my program, and not counting Dr. Nehemiah Gordon, one of the top Hebrew scholars in the world. But yeah, you got to get those Raelians on your program. That's a UFO cult. You got to get it on Backyard Professor. But there's just I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about John. You know, John and I have talked on the phone a few times recently, and he was telling me how much he enjoyed the Inconvenient panel discussion that I did, and that we just give each other, you know, feedback, and we just have really good conversations. You know, most of it will never be, you know, it's all off camera, it's all that. But John, actually, I talked to John the other day and asked him if he'd come back on my program, and I said, let me just turn on the microphone and let's just you and I chat. He's like, okay, let's do it. You know, and that's what's so cool about him is that
he didn't say I pay my guests $500 a show, Steve.
He ain't getting that from me, that's for sure. but
I'll pay him $200 to come on my show.
Wait a minute. People get paid to go on Mormon book reviews? What the? How am I always the last to know?
I don't pay atheists, though. That's the thing. I draw the line at atheists.
God damn it.
You're racist.
Atheists can pray to their own God for blessings.
This is what happened to Korihor. This is how it started right here with Korihor.
Right here.
Watch out, man. You might lose your voice at any moment.
Oh, man. I know you ain't got no priesthood. I know you're connected, but you're connected in with the wrong branch. Don't you know? The Brighamites. Haven't you heard that the Brighamites are the Church of Jesus Christ now? I mean, like, so I heard that, and when they started doing that, I said, okay, somebody over there in Missouri is just kicking themselves.
They have to be true. They have to be true because they're doing worship services now on Sunday.
Well, you know, it's so funny because I tell people the reason why everybody's like, man, what's with the church using all this, the name the Church of Jesus Christ? And I say, well, why do you think the Church of Jesus Christ have so many baptisms in Utah now? Right? I mean, almost every other Sunday they're announcing a baptism in Utah. So the church is growing in Utah and Idaho. And I sometimes wonder, is it because it's the Church of Jesus Christ? It's kind of fun.
You're saying you're doing the little switcheroo. It's like, where am I? Just get in the river.
Steve, was Mormon Stories influential when you started your show?
So actually, the very first I've gone back and tried to figure out, okay, when did I first encounter the Mormon Stories? And that would have been, I believe, I'm almost 99% sure, was in 2013 when he interviewed Sean McCraney. Now, I was a big Sean McCraney fan starting like in 2008, so I was watching all Sean McCraney stuff on YouTube all the time. And then it comes up in my algorithm or my feed, oh, this Mormon guy interviews Sean McCraney. So I was introduced to John that way, and actually found out that was actually, I want to say that was one of the first video episodes he had ever posted on YouTube as well. So and I watch all my podcasts. I don't listen to them. So that's how John Dehlin got on my radar. And so I just religiously watched, I mean, from probably 2013 to 2020, I probably watched like 90% of Mormon Stories episodes. And then 2015, Gospel Tangents got on my radar, so I started watching. Those are my two primary programs I'd watch for interviews, because they were really the only game in town where they were talking to a lot of these scholars, and they were talking to a lot of interesting people. So I kind of got to understand Mormon culture better than just reading books and papers and stuff. And
plus, with those two podcasters, you have to realize that you have to be 6'6" in order to be a Mormon podcaster.
Yeah, and that's funny because I'm 6'3" and I'm usually the tallest person in the room, and then it seems like I run to everybody else: Jim Bennett, Rod Meldrum, Rick Bennett, and John Dehlin, and others, and they're all taller than me. And I said, "This is weird," you know. Like I think I just made the cutoff at 6'3".
Now, that's not fair. I'm old enough. I'm starting to shrink. Dang it.
Yeah, right.
I've gone from 6 foot to 5'11" and 7/8. I'm mad.
Shrinkage sucks. Right?
Yes, it does. In more ways than one. So,
hey, Steve, one quick question.
Yeah.
Cowboys or Eagles?
I'm going to go for Eagles. Yeah, absolutely. Over the Cowboys.
We'll let you stay on now.
Yeah. And by the way, well, my big game is Monday night with the Bears versus the Vikings. I'm a big Bears fan, so I'm optimistic.
There you go. Okay, yeah, you can still stay on now. Okay, good. No wonder we get along so well.
Well, any more quick questions or comments? Because I want to hop off and start drinking a couple beers. Is there anything else you wanted to ask me or tell me?
You said the B word on the show?
Yeah, barley drinks are part of the word of wisdom. It's perfectly acceptable.
So here's what
did I tell you I have been using the C word, coffee. I was painting one of my watercolor paintings, and I was so hard on the painting that I was dipping my brush in the coffee and then sipping the stupid coffee. Now that's dedication. I'm telling. That's embarrassing. But oh well.
That might be a new coffee flavor, though. How did it taste?
It tasted sort of watery.
Steve, how many years have you been podcasting now?
Actually, my very first book review dropped in March of 2021 now. And my very first interview was April. It was right before General Conference, I think, the Friday before. So Good Friday, maybe, of April of that year was my very first interview that I ever dropped, which was with Rick Bennett.
So what do you think about doing 16 more years of shows? What do you think about John's achievement of doing 20 years of podcasting on YouTube?
It's pretty amazing what he's accomplished. When you consider that he was bringing in pennies or hardly anything for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and when you look at some of those financials from back in the day, it's like, look, he was driving cars. I mean, I think even with just duct taping stuff, you know, to keep his cars together. I mean, so he made a lot of sacrifices to doing what he's doing. So because he's built what he has, because he's just brilliant, he's just so good at what he does. I mean, you know, he's the best. He's the best. He's the GOAT in this whole thing. I mean, we all still rotate around his gravitational pull in this space, and we will for a long time. I call him the Joe Rogan. When I talk to outsiders, I say, you know, imagine being on the Joe Rogan. I was on the Joe Rogan of Mormon Podcasters after I had started, less than a year after I started my channel. I said, imagine starting a podcast and a few weeks afterwards you're hearing from Joe Rogan. I said, that was my experience entering into that space, how excited I was. But he's built himself quite an amazing thing. And to his credit, you know, and this is the thing too, is like, you know, he spent half of it, 10 years in the church, and then now we divide it 10 years out of the church. So it's actually 50-50
now. He did not
so
start out antagonistic.
No.
He really didn't. He was trying to help people stay in the church, and they still got mad at him. It's
right.
crazy.
Well, not, and more
That was
importantly,
interesting, actually.
There's a tonal shift. There's a tonal shift going even with John now, where he's starting to be a little more defensive and appreciative of the church. And he's expressed that to me as well, because in one sense, there are graver threats to the Republic than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That's right. And you want to know what John is missing out on? When John was making pennies each month or each week doing a podcast, all he needed to make all his ends meet is start a church at the same time. Right, Ex-Mojo?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You would think so, right? You would think so. But
So we'll let you go, Steve, and we'll let Joe have the floor now.
Good to
Good
see you.
Steve.
Thanks for coming, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
Hi to Shane Cunningham, who just joined us.
And hi, Shane. How long do you have, Shane?
Well, I got. Let's see. We're cooking homemade pizzas, so probably 30 minutes.
I need to go and let someone else on too.
Yes. All right.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the
Good to
invite.
see Carrie.
Carrie, it's always good to see
say
you.
hi to all of you and to give John Dehlin a 2 thumbs up and say, keep going, man. We're behind you all the way. We appreciate him broadening our culture as well as our intellects, and ironically, as well as our spirituality. And that, I suspect, is also going to be a controversial statement with some Mormons, but I'm going to stick with it. So
That's right. We're behind John so he could take all the bullets.
there you go. All right. Thanks, you guys. Good to see y'all.
Thanks for
Good
coming,
to see
Carrie.
Carrie.
Okay, it's Joe's turn to have the floor. So,
Oh,
Joe,
Joe.
tell us
Let me get
the
this.
impact Mormon Stories had on your life. You were one of the first. How many years ago did you get excommunicated?
I was excommunicated in 2013. I
Okay.
got the letter. Do you want to see the letter? But I got the letter here framed, so it was that I could pull it up anytime. I love being an ex-Mormon. I love being excommunicated. I thought it was great.
But you were out mentally years before that.
Oh, I was an ex-Mormon semi-officially for 10 years by then. So I've now been ex-Mo longer than I was Mormon. So because I just turned 45 this year.
Joe, what is your position in the Church of Korihor? Would it be prophet, king? What would you refer to yourself as?
Yeah,
President?
we don't do a lot of that kind of that kind of political maneuvering. There's two orders of clergy in the Church of Korihor. There's the Heralds of Reason, and then the lesser order is the Luminaries of Reason, who are missionaries. They don't go and knock on people's doors. I mean, they could if they wanted to, but they do our mission work, which is going out and serving people, doing officiating at weddings and so forth. And also, heading up our missions, feeding the unhoused and distributing blankets and that kind of thing. So, yeah, and then my position is the heralds. I am the first herald of the Church of Korihor at current, which means that my role is primarily to serve our missionaries, our luminaries, and also to serve as a spiritual leader for the church, which is a spiritual community for godless people.
And so Wednesdays and Sundays, you do sermons?
Usually I do podcasts. I still do my true crime podcast and sundry other subjects through Hellfire Agency. But I mainly do sermons on Sunday mornings now. I'm planning to start an actual go out there mission preaching country across the country, coast to coast in October. And, and just working and serving the godless people, these godless whores, as we call ourselves sometimes. The Korihors are, we're good people, for godless people. So, but I was excommunicated, I want to say just before John Dehlin or just after. It was like right in that same, it was the same swath of excommunications was me, John Dehlin, and Kate Kelly. And then not long after that was at least it didn't seem long after that was Jeremy of the CES letter. And the difference was nobody had ever heard of me. So I was like, it's me. They kicked me out. It was long after that. The key should have been that I should have published the Korihor Argument, A Missionary's Journey Out of Mormonism, before getting excommunicated, but I was still working on it. So, so not long after that, I published my book, and so
I'd like to bear my testimony that I know that Joe is a good person. He's a great leader.
Thank you very much. We had a great conversation, Randy and I, just last week, yeah, and. We talked about grief, and we talked about the importance of ritual and marking grief when you are, especially for people who are atheists. We talked a little bit about truth. We talked a little bit about differences between people who are agnostic and versus atheists, but how we still crave that spiritual connection. And in fact. I love what you'd said, Gene, about, was it you, Gene, that said, that John Dehlin has become a spiritual leader in the ex-Mormon movement, and that's going to piss off some Mormons, and boy, is it ever. But you're not wrong, in the Church of Korihor, I have to defend myself and defend my community a lot when people say spiritual community for atheists, and then they spit out some probably not surprising vitriol about us and about atheists, because people do suppose that all atheists are mean, all atheists and agnostics are ill-tempered, and we have leaned into that. I've done my share. We do some toxic things. We react to religion in some toxic ways, but the truth is that even godless people, yes, not only do godless people need spiritual direction and spirituality in our lives, in a real way, we may be most of us in the biggest expansion of spiritual experience of our lives, especially those of us who have left religion behind. That moment where you decide we're going to unmoor from the tradition, from the hierarchy, from the lies, from the mythology of this community, and it's going to be great. And we're going to, but lo and behold, now you find yourself in a place where every ritual you're going to have to invent from scratch. Every truth you're going to believe, you're going to have to do intense amount of research on. This is now one of the most difficult things you'll do with your life, is to be non-religious. And Mormon Stories is absolutely instrumental for that. I was just listening, what was this, yesterday or the day before? Ward Radio, everybody's favorite chumps, had posted this video where they were talking about how with Jacob Hansen, I believe, about how Mormon Stories shouldn't be called Mormon Stories. John Dehlin shouldn't have called Mormon Stories because he's really just a disgruntled, atheist or a disgruntled, naturalist, etc. And I'm sitting here listening to this while these guys go on and on, making their bones, selling travel for go and do travel. Make sure you do your research before you sign up. And, and while at the same time, every person on that panel knows that John Dehlin started Mormon Stories as a faith-affirming podcast, as a podcast to help people deal with some of these anachronisms, deal with some of these problems with the faith, and to learn, faith-building stories. And a lot of the spirituality that people got from John when he was Mormon, which I thought they weren't supposed to. I thought Mormons didn't call themselves Mormons anymore, but whatever. Apparently they are when they're offended.
Plus,
It's a victory for Satan.
Yes, if John was a prophet, he would have called it Victory for Satan Stories.
Right, stories. Right.
And
but
so,
it's like, yeah, go ahead.
So the main thing is we're trying to get Randy Joe to tell us what he likes about Mormon Stories and how grateful he is that John has been doing it for 20 years. And we have Sandra, if her, what do you call it, internet gets stronger. Sandra Tanner is in the house, but she might have to hop back on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to chat with Sandra.
Yeah.
And Shane.
Yes. But let's get Joe's shout out to John Dehlin instead of talking about churches.
I could stay on topic. I don't always listen to Mormon Stories. A lot of times I can't take it. It can be a lot, but I have been a monthly contributor, not a lot, but some, every month for years, ever since I first heard John interviewing these people, because for new people who are deconstructing, they need to hear some of these newer stories. There's tons of content on there about deconstruction, but people need to see somebody close to their age and or the amount of time they've been out of the church, or that, if they are considering leaving the church, or if they are trying to stay in the church. They need to see somebody more like them. And so what John is doing is he's keeping current a project that is there for people in a moment of deconstruction, which is a moment of great spiritual crisis for most people. I know it was for me. Mormon Stories showed up a little late in my deconstruction to convince me that Mormonism wasn't true. I was convinced of that, I'm pretty sure, just about when Mormon Stories just got started, and I had no idea what it was. But I can tell you this, as I listened to the interviews that John does, I came to realize this man's doing phenomenally important work for people who are on that bleeding edge of discovery, when it comes to deconstructing faith. And he is there not just with a message attacking the church, but he is there with a message affirming that you still have value, that you don't lose anything when you, not only if you lose, not only if you leave, but you don't lose value if you stay. You are on your own spiritual journey here, and it's important for you to establish yourself in that journey, that as these other people are doing, including excommunicated people like John, like myself, like, you know, a lot of these people he interviews. And but at the same time, you got a lot of PMOs, you got a lot of people in there who are that he interviews who are recently out. Some of my favorite interviews are with is it Lori Lee Hull, the former architect, and the temple architect. And I was just that's one set of interviews that I have just pored over. It was like as they've come out, and her story about transitioning, leaving the church, her story about and her frankly blunt and honest story about what about the corruption that goes on inside the church, and which I know has to be painful for her, because that was her life, that was her career, this was her support network. And to be honest about it, and in a way that doesn't just flatter ex-Mormons and just go attacking the church, but to say, this is what I did see, this is what I didn't see, this is, you know, perhaps the fair criticism. That's the kind of balanced approach that John gets from interviewees. And I think it's admirable. I think it's necessary. And, you know, here's to 20 more. John, you're doing amazing work, man. And I greatly admire you. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Thanks, Joe. Let's hear from Shane now. And Shane is going to tell us when he first started hearing about Mormon Stories and how it affected him in his spiritual growth, we'll say. And
28. Okay. Thanks, Gene. And hi, Maven. Hi, Joe. Hi, Randy. Hi,
Good
Gene.
to see you again, Shane.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, mine's pretty personal and straightforward. I started listening to Mormon Stories in 2018 when I was excommunicated. I like to describe myself as a Jonathan Haidt Mormon. My emotional elephant needed community and a sober community, because my family struggled with, alcohol addiction. And as a teenager in the 70s, I joined the church before the priesthood ban was lifted, and I was, all in to the best of my ability. Grew up in Alaska. So I was attached to the Alaska version of Mormonism, which is a lot different than the Utah version. I really, really enjoyed the community. Still have lovely friends throughout the country that are LDS. I'm a white boy, so I'm privileged. I really came to Mormon Stories when I was excommunicated. And so for me, my deconstruction story started with tragedy. I had a long journey with my first wife, who died of a degenerative brain disease that you're all hearing about right now from Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis has frontotemporal degeneration. Hi, Sandra.
I'm trying to figure this all out.
And my wife began to present with frontotemporal degeneration in her late 40s and died at 66. So we were on for the first 12 years, we didn't even know what she had, but she became a different person. Our lives our family culture and our family health kind of deteriorated along with her brain. I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. The church I actually told the church, I'm a former bishop, former stake presence counselor, served in leadership positions because I'm a white guy, and was kind of the golden convert as a teenager. Graduated from BYU, 3 elders quorum presidencies, 5 bishoprics, high council, stake presidency, kind of the convert pedigree.
I was a nursery leader.
Me too. My favorite calling was primary chorister. And I just, I mainly want to just thank John for being part of opening this huge, intimate Mormon conversation about what it means to be LDS through all the generations, that are still alive. And it's very different depending on when you come into the church.
I thought you were going to say throughout all generations of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be better off to just forget some of those things. But Sandra, I want to just mention that I actually had a Baptist minister's son who was my English teacher in high school, and gave me one of I think probably you and your husband's books early on. And so I heard about you a long time ago, but as I like to tell people, I needed the church more than I needed the truth. So in the Jonathan Haidt flavor of, my emotional elephant going where it needed to go, and then my rational writer creating the scaffolding or the justification for being LDS, I needed the church for community and to belong and to give meaning to my life. And it did all those things. And, I had family members that took the discussions with me and declined to join, primarily because of the priesthood ban at the time. And I was at 14 years old willing to overlook that. So served a mission to South Korea, had a wonderful experience, loved my companions, served in mission leadership. And it was my wife's brain disease that was the catalyst for my deconstruction. So, I kind of reached this moment where I had to choose between my membership in the church or my own life, because we weren't getting any diagnoses from the medical community. My wife's behavior was out of control. There was a lot of destruction happening with our children that were still at home. And my older children were advocating for me to survive. And so it's just a really tragic, difficult time. We did learn about the disease, frontotemporal degeneration. And we did kind of all come back because she was estranged from most of us through that journey. And we did come back and love and take care of her till she died in 2023. But during that time, I consumed thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of John Dehlin podcasts. I would say, as I think about what I'm grateful for, the episodes that I enjoy the most were episodes that represented feminine awakening. I really enjoy hearing from women. There's a lot of reasons for that. And I've kind of devoted the balance of my life, I'm 65, to listening to women tell their stories and really gaining the wisdom that was discounted in the culture that I came from. I also love the episodes that involve the minority communities, people that are not white, people that have different gender associations and sexual preferences or identities. And I love the episodes from former church leaders, that have had experiences like me. I've just kind of come recently into this understanding that converts have a much different experience than lifelong members do. I remember 14 years, most of 14 years, when I wasn't LDS, then the 43 years when I was, and then subsequently now the 8 years that I haven't been a member. And I can see life from both ends. And it's actually, I think, easier for a convert to deconstruct and leave the church, because we've already had an experience of what the world is like beyond the church. And we know that there's good people and good cultures and good healthy practices and healthy family units and organizations. So our entire orientation isn't built on the Mormon framework. And so I've come to accept it's easy. It's been easier for me to deconstruct, even though I was a member and devoted thousands of hours of service and hundreds of thousands of dollars in tithing. It was just easier for me to deconstruct. It was still very painful, but it was, I think, easier for somebody that's never had any experience other than Mormonism.
And John Dehlin says he stands on the shoulders of giants, and Sandra and Gerald Tanner are two of those giants.
Absolutely.
And we are happy to have Sandra on the show.
You bet.
Sandra,
Shane, I'm sorry, Gene. Just one quick statement. Shane, I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am for the loss of your wife.
Thank you.
I lost my wife to leukemia, and I understand the pain that's associated with that.
I'm sure you do.
So my condolences.
Well, Sandra, you lost your husband too, right?
Yes, through Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So Alzheimer's is a degenerative brain disease like FTD. FTD starts in midlife. It's not an old person's brain disease. I have friends in the FTD community that are in their husbands became ill with FTD mid-30s, died in their early 40s. So anyway, I just want to say to John that I'm grateful for the conversations and just the many different people that have come on and talked about their journeys. I think if I can name one that stands out, it was the gentleman who was the stake president in England, what was his name? Tom Phillips, who who got the second anointing. And I served in a stake presidency, and I didn't even know about the second anointing. I always presumed as a member that having your calling and election made sure was actually meeting Jesus Christ. And I had a dream as a child where Jesus was in my dream, and you can interpret that however you want. And so I thought, well, I don't know if that qualifies, but I think Jesus is real, so I'll take it. And when I found out about the second anointing, that really left a sour, kind of very pharisaical taste in my mouth, that we would have this very, very secret kind of elitist practice that only people who, for the most part, are either highly privileged or related to somebody that, is of Mormon pioneer stock and progeny leadership. And I absolutely love the community I came from, but I also acknowledge the harm that's done to so many. And I recognize that I have a lot of blind spots born of my privilege. I am just grateful to be alive. I'm grateful that I continue to meet beautiful, incredible, intelligent, capable people. And I married one who is a non-believer, who, she's essentially an atheist, but if I call her that, she eschews the label because she doesn't like labels. And she's one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And the thing that's most incredible about my wife now is that she joined me 7 years ago on this walk with Faye, and she helped me take care of Faye. And people that meet Jennifer, my dog even, everybody in my family, my kids, my grandkids, my dog, everybody loves Jennifer more than me. And it's part of our family story. And there's lots of different kinds of families. And one of the fundamental challenges that Mormonism, the Church of Jesus, the Brighamite Church has, is accepting more than one flavor of family. They really are stuck in a difficult place, because as we evolve and continue to develop, families are going to come in all shapes and sizes and flavors and versions of love. And I remember after my excommunication, the stake president in my excommunication said, "It's been reported to us that you are or you may choose to participate in activities that are unbecoming of a member of the church." And I looked at him and I said, "Yes, President, I reported that." And he kind of looked up from his manual and he said, "Yes, you did." And the night I walked out of that excommunication out onto the sidewalk, it was May of 2018, and I just looked around. I had the most beautiful feeling of just release and peace and acceptance. And that helped me move on to take care of my wife, who had a formidable disease that very few know about or have ever heard of. And we survived. And my kids, my 6 kids, who were all adults between the ages of 41 and 27, they rallied. We all rallied around each other and took care of each other. And a lot of that ethos came from Mormonism, right? It came from the community. So I just want to say thank you to John, because as I listened to John and Sandra and RFM and Bill and Maven and Jean and all the people that make up this vast conversation that touches on the periphery and the intimate details of the LDS Church. Again, I love studying the breakoffs too. That book Schisms was really good, by the way, about the many, the 199 or however many significant splinter groups there are from the church. We're a myriad of human beings that live in a lot of different ways, and I can attribute, as Jennifer my wife now will say, Shane, a lot of who you are and what you've become and why you do what you do is because of your time in the LDS Church. And so I take the good with the bad. I see it as a tribe. I don't see it as any particular group endowed with more than the next tribe now. And I still have a lot of love and affection for it. And John really helped me through Mormon Stories to see the myriad of experience and just all the wonderful flavors of humanity that can go through a pretty narrowly defined religious experience.
Right. And John and Shane, Randy and I want to interview you, and I hope that Maven can join us when we do that someday soon.
Love to do that.
And we're happy to have you. If you need to leave, you can leave, but you can stay on to listen to Sandra if you want.
No, I'm good. Let's turn the time over to Sandra.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Shane.
You. Nice to meet you. Bye.
So, Sandra, my question is, when did you convert John Dehlin?
10 years ago, 2014.
Yeah.
My biggest problem currently is I'm too old to learn all this stuff. And that's why I've dropped out a couple of times, because I'm just using my phone. And if I touch it wrong, I go off screen.
That's right.
And would you believe, I never get anybody to my door. And I see two people on my screen come up to my door, and it looked like they were carrying political signs. So I don't mind missing them. And
that's right.
We appreciate you coming, Sandra. I feel like I'm in the presence of royalty.
Oh, wow.
You truly are.
You're in the presence of a lot of experience, I'll tell you that. And I appreciate John's efforts. I come from a Christian background. I know most of you probably don't. But I have listened to many of your stories in the bookstore and at different events. And I've always enjoyed everyone's story, no matter where they end up. It's a journey we've all taken that we didn't choose, and that is different. Whether I was raised Mormon, and so I just was sailing along. Life was wonderful, and it was great to be a Mormon. And then my mom read Fawn Brody and started to disrupt my life. And then I met Gerald, and then my life exploded. But I thought things were boiling down or settling down for me when Gerald went into his Alzheimer's in the late 1990s, which for you guys is ancient history, but for me, I thought at that point that I was winding down my life. I was in my early 60s. And so it wasn't like I was at the start of my marriage or my career outside of Mormonism, but taking care of Gerald for several years, like anyone that's been through those kinds of debilitating illnesses, is a extremely difficult, trying time for everyone involved. And we came through it better than maybe a lot of people. Gerald was very sweet. And I know sometimes with dementia, the person can end up angry or fight you on things because they don't understand the world. Gerald was very sweet. It was still very hard. But when he died in 2006, I thought my life was winding down on the Mormon scene. And I'm just bouncing along once in a while, giving talks. I was doing my newsletters. And 2014, I get this, somebody tells me about this internet stuff on YouTube. I hardly even knew what YouTube was. And I don't even know what these people are talking about. So anyways, I found John Dehlin, and he wants me to come on his program. And I think, what the heck? Who's this guy and what's he about? What am I getting myself into? I had no clue. Of course, at the time, I thought he was, well, I guess he was still more Mormon than
active and attending
than he is at the present time. And so I wasn't sure where this was going at all. But I have to credit John with relaunching my career. So if the church wants to know who was at fault for this, it's John Dehlin. Because if I hadn't have done his interview in 2014, the way things were going, I would have just drifted off into the sunset and just talked to my old folk friends and let the Mormon world go by. So here I am 10 years later and still doing podcasts with John.
John gently dragged you out of retirement in a way.
Yes, he did. And I still don't know what I'm doing, but it's been an interesting journey through this 10 years to see all of the proliferation of podcasts. I'm just astounded at how many there are out there and so many different areas of Mormonism, so that no matter what your interest is, you could find a podcast that's probably going to explore it. So I am not just sitting home twiddling my thumbs. I spend half my day watching YouTube. I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyways, I see a lot of RFM and John and the different ones. It's been fun, and I don't know how he keeps doing it. I think that I would be running out of gas if I was him. I don't know how he cranks out so many shows, just one after another. It wears me out. I have a hard time just keeping up with everything that all you guys are cranking out.
That's right. Randy said it's like we're in royalty right now, and
very, very much so. Very much.
And I'll
royalty.
say, here's what I'll say: John Dehlin, 20 years of YouTube, pretty good.
Yeah.
Sandra Tanner, 66 years of ex-Mormon.
Excellent.
Excellent,
Sandra.
Truth sharing, I'll say.
Yes.
Truth generating and truth sharing. That's all she was trying to do. What is the truth?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Well, it just it shows you what happens when you ask a question. Because my mom put questions to me. I put questions to my seminary teacher and then to my institute director. And they all just were brushing me off. Well, we hear that all the time even now. But I tell you, in 1958, no one wanted to talk about any of these topics. And it was hard to find someone that even knew what you were talking about. But we kept asking, and we shook enough trees and chopped at the base long enough that finally some of that fruit started to fall off, and people finally got to see some of the documents. So now people can't say, well, I don't know whether that's true what you're saying because no one has access to the stuff you're talking about. Hey, people, it's on the internet. You can Google and find most of the books or quotes or things that you need to research Mormonism. The cat's out of the bag. The feathers are out of the pillow. Sorry, people.
The glory of God is intelligence unless you're a Mormon in the 21st century.
Yes, and I don't have any rancor against the Mormon people or even the Mormon top leadership. Actually, I feel a certain amount of sympathy for the men in top leadership. They were raised in something where the information was all withheld from them until they probably had already set their life course to where it would be very hard to redirect it at that point. And I know many of you have taken that path and have dealt with the great cost of changing your directions. And I commend you for your ability to put truth first in your life, that you weren't going to stay supportive of something using the name of God that was disgracing the very claim they were putting forward. And when I see the church trying to defend Joseph Smith's character, I think, oh my word, have you ever studied anything about his polygamy? I mean, there's just no way to defend any of that. And the lies have gone on since then.
Now, do you almost consider it an honor that the Mormon Church is becoming more Christian, all because of Sandra Tanner?
Well, the jury's out on that one. I'm not sure how much of shell game we're playing.
They draw close to me with their lips, right?
Yes. Oh, Sandra, my goodness. Sandra, they don't know how to be. I love the phrase, they're as honest as they know how to be. Now, isn't that wonderful?
Perfect.
But some of us know how to be honest a little better than others.
That's right. Randy has a question for you, Sandra.
Well, it's not a question, it's a statement.
Yeah.
Here's the P under the shell game. You have imparted a great deal of wisdom into this entire Exmo community. And I personally can't thank you enough. I've watched you over and over again on so many guest appearances on podcasts, and I feel like a sponge when I watch you because I'm soaking up a lot of that wisdom that you're imparting. So thank you.
I appreciate it. You know, it didn't even occur to me to put my crown on. Allison Biggers, a friend of mine, gave me a crown for my 84th birthday. So it's got to be kind of a joke. But I really appreciate all the people in the Exmo community. Even though we don't agree on a lot of things, we all do agree on integrity and people's worth and the value of integrity, of community, of encouragement, and listening to one another, which we never got when we were in the Mormon Church. We were not given the respect.
I feel like I'm more Christian out of the Mormon Church than when I was in it.
I'm sure you probably are.
And Sandra, do you know Tim Rathbone?
Well, I know who he is. I don't know that I really know him.
He used to mow your lawn when he was a kid.
Oh dear.
Tim worked in the archives at BYU in the bottom of the library. Did you ever go to the bottom of BYU library and look things up?
Gerald and I went to the library one time to do research when we got in trouble for making copies while on a Saturday when no one was there. And the kid waiting on us let us do whatever we wanted. And that started a big thing. It's in our biography, but that was the one time we actually did research at BYU. And the church had a heck of a time later trying to figure out what we got access to because this kid didn't know what to restrict. The problem was we didn't have enough money to keep making photocopies, or we'd have got a lot more out of that library that day. What a journey. Well, I'm not going to stay on this all night, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents worth that I appreciate.
Let's let Tim tell you how much he appreciates you, and then we'll let you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Bye now.
I really appreciate you, Sandra. And we had lunch a couple of times with Wes and Mike Marquardt at MHA and Sunstone a few times.
Oh,
And I
right.
visited and I visited your store a few times, and I
I
sent you a
think
few
your beard
things
is throwing me off. You're in disguise.
in disguise. That's right. That's right. So I appreciate everything you've done and changed the world of Mormonism.
All
You're
right.
the pioneer. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
It's been good talking with you.
That's right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sandra.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I can take her off. Yeah, because of Sandra Tanner, Detective Pyrie learned the truth of Mormonism.
Good to see you, Tim.
Good to see you.
You're always a pleasant addition to whatever we're doing.
Oh, thank you.
So, Tim, tell us about your earliest recollections of John Dehlin's Mormon Stories.
It was 2013 or 14.
So he had already been podcasting for like 8 years.
When he got on to YouTube.
2005. September 4th.
No, when he, yeah, but the long interview.
Long form?
Long form. Like we interviewed Mike Quinn and he interviewed Mike Norton and a few other people. I can't remember.
Benji Swimmer. He was the dancer. I think that was around 2013.
Maybe. I don't know.
Benji was, I've been a Benji fan longer than I've been out of the church.
Oh, okay.
And
Because
his sister.
Mormon Stories or before Mormon Stories?
Before Mormon Stories. Him and his sister, Lacey. I think her name's Lacey. Yeah, huge
Were they on
fans.
first on the Dancing with the Stars or something else?
No, they were on So You Think You Can Dance.
So You Think You Can Dance.
Yeah,
right?
they were both on that show. Benji won it, and then his sister came on, and it seems like she may have won it too. But they're both incredible talent.
Right. So yeah, so Tim, you started listening to because Mike Quinn, you were a student of Mike Quinn's.
I was a student of Mike's, yes. Well, Mike and I emailed up until a few weeks before he died, at least once a month.
And so you were appreciative that John was able to get Mike on his show?
Yes.
Now, Mike was still a believer, and John was trying to also reach a believing crowd. Mike believed everything, but he also believed in truthful history above all.
That's what he taught us in History 100. Yeah, I remember that.
That's right. And so do you want to talk directly to John and thank him for Mormon Stories? Do you want me to make you full screen? Although I'll just put you in the middle.
Okay. The most groundbreaking episode of all the episodes I've listened to were the Tim Kossoff ones about SA in the church. Those to me.
The Boy Scouts.
And the Boy Scouts. Those are the most important episodes, in my opinion, that he's done. Next would be Robert Rittner and the ones with the guy that wrote the book. You just had him on, not John Turner, but the other one.
Steve?
The one that wrote the book, The
Matt
Black and the
Harris.
White. Matt Harris is, and
Second
then
Class
John
Saints.
Turner. Second Class Saints, yeah.
Yeah.
And a few others. I can't remember all of them, but yeah. I'm just grateful for John and what he's done all these years.
Now, the computer age wouldn't have happened without IBM, and you were there in 1896 when IBM was first formed. You just wish you had purchased some of the stock, right?
Yeah, right. Well, today on Facebook, they had a picture of a computer. We had a computer in my high school. We had an IBM 1160. It was big. Took about the size
Half
of
the
a
school
cabinet.
rooms about, right?
Yeah, well, you had three. You had the card reader, you had the card punch card machine, card reader, printer, and then your CPU in my high school. huge, you know. I mean, and then they took it all away and they gave us terminals. I remember that. There was a picture of a terminal there. Do you remember those days in high school? I said, I sure do.
Yeah.
Were those the ones with the green screen or the green blink?
Yes.
Light on the screen? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And we used to go up to UCLA to play on their computers. And they had a whole building, 4 or 5 stories high, full of tape drives. Nothing but tape drives.
And Tim would type in, "Do you like to play games?"
Let's play thermonuclear war.
Yeah, let's play thermonuclear war. So anyhow, Tim, you've seen the guests we've had talk about John Dehlin. We still have a couple of recordings to show. Do you want me to show recording while we're waiting? But talk a little bit more while I set something up about some of John Dehlin's recent shows that you've really liked.
Have you met John in person, Tim? I'm sure you have.
I met him at Thrive.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't the first time, though, was it?
Pardon? That was the first time.
First time.
That was the first time.
Wow.
I've talked to him.
I took a picture of that.
Yeah, you took the picture of me and, what's his name? And John. I can't remember the guy's name.
Gene, that was me, by the way, tag teaming so that you could get that video ready to go.
Yeah.
Asking about Tim meeting John.
That's right.
You look tan, by the way, Tim. Have you been out in the sun? Yeah.
It's only 101 here today.
Yeah, that's like, well, we weren't quite, I think we were 99 degrees in Spokane, freaking Washington. What?
Let me see. Let me look at some of John's videos that I've watched lately. The guy that resigned because they told him not to report SA, the seminary teacher that he just had on.
Oh, yeah, that guy was very he talked well.
Yes, and the other one was Steve Hassan. About recovering from Mormonism. Model. Yeah, the bite model. It was just a couple. Anyway.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter. Play Peter.
So Peter's joining us from across the pond. I had him give his testimony of John Dehlin, and let's see how good he does.
Hi, John. It's Peter Bleakley from Mormon Civil War podcast in Britain. Just a few things to say. I can't believe it's been 20 years. It's mad, isn't it? I don't really exactly remember when we first found out about Mormon Stories, but it was so exciting. I think people before the Mormon internet age don't realize how little there was out there. So here we are in Britain, we're subscribing to Sunstone magazine, but that's it. That's literally all we've got as a place to understand or even hear about a more intellectual Mormonism, or members of the church who are kind of being willing to be rebellious enough to discuss its problems and the state of it and how it's functioning culturally and politically in ways that you would never hear on a Sunday. So I just remember this kind of almost like a beam of light coming into, me and my mum particularly very excited about this, of someone like interviewing Mormons. And we're particularly in a country here where Mormons don't ever get a look in the media, you know, we're rare as hen's teeth. And the idea that people were just going to be able to tell their story and that it would be honest, like people telling their real experiences with the church, the stuff you only talk about in hushed whispers with someone you really trust within your own church community. It was extraordinary and so brave to start doing that. And so much has come from it, obviously. But I just wanted to sort of share that memory of first hearing about this incredible thing happening that was, I had no idea how much it was going to totally change my life. Over time, we actually got to meet John. He came to Thrive here in the UK a couple of years ago. It was an absolute hoot. He's incredibly tall. So we've got a mad photo of me and John and my wife's quite short, so I just look small and I'm really tall, and she looks like a tiny pixie stood on a chair so she could fit in the picture. But John was the real deal, just so patient, so kind, very much about encouraging us as British podcasters. We had spent a bit of time with him and chatting, but throughout the Thrive weekends, he was had all the time in the world for everyone, so supportive, and then partied hard. Like we had the immortal famous karaoke with John Dehlin, and he was fantastic and just brought the joy and partied for hours. So it's been, I think, really significant that particularly what John has contributed to the nuanced and post-Mormon space is not just giving other people a voice, which is so powerful, and being really confident with the long form, which just it says so much more than you're able to do in a short interview. To really follow people's journeys and see how they're the same as our own in lots of ways and be validated by that and reassured is an incredible gift to thousands of people. But for John to also, and his family, of course, supporting him, and everyone else who's helped with the projects, to keep going. There can be a lot of churn in social media, but just to keep going with that and all that's taken and the commitment, I can't express gratitude enough for that. But particularly the tone that John, although he'll occasionally get caffeinated, he just was throughout a consistent voice, has been the voice of kindness, of reason, of balance, of appreciating what's good about the church while also being pretty ruthless with its problems and failings and the behavior of the leaders. And I think that was so important because there's so much anger, all completely justified. And I love a good rant. But there was so much potential for this sort of nuanced and post-Mormon social media space to be very aggressive, to be really nasty, for people with perfectly valid reasons to just be brutal to each other all the time. And I really think we owe a lot to John and to Bill Real and RFM and others who just set a tone of thoughtful kindness, of being emotionally intelligent, as well as dealing with brutal facts, that has created a genuinely safe and lasting space for us to come together, to support each other, to process our faith deconstruction and reconstruction and whatever journeys we've gone on. It could have been so much worse, and it could have fizzled out and become nothing very quickly if John hadn't brought that consistent, calm, thoughtful approach and made that kind of the norm within that community, that we're going to spend time listening and understanding each other with the long form. Lots of juicy truth bombs along the way, but we're going to spend time with each other until you feel you know each other. You really know this person who's being interviewed, and they feel like they've been able to tell their whole story. It's been such a gift. It's meant that crashing out of a high demand fundamentalist religion for so many of us has been far, far less dangerous, far less brutal, far less cruel, far less damaging. Obviously, it's still really awkward and difficult and painful in lots of ways. But when my time came, as it were, to really come into conflict with the church that I love and be excommunicated, I was almost able to have fun with it because John and others had already shared their journey. I knew what to expect. I understood the psychological impact, at least in theory anyway. And it empowered me profoundly to have, in a way, a really positive experience with that process and that journey, and to know I was very much not alone, and to be confident through it, which is what empowerment's about. So I just want to say thank you so much. I just like that those words aren't even adequate. You have extraordinarily changed my life and the life of my family, and I know that's replicated thousands of times, and you're still there as a voice of comfort, a familiar voice, always bringing new information and new stories, and being a guardian of a very large community that very much appreciates what you've given to us all and what you've modeled for us to then pick up, and how much you've encouraged us all to create our own content, to contribute our voices, to do our thing. All the time you've been about raising everyone up, not being competitive, but encouraging others. So thank you for that, John, and congratulations. 20 years of something truly world-changing for people within the Mormon sphere, as it were. So well done, and thank you.
That was nice. I always like to hear from Peter.
Yeah, I told Peter, take, some people are doing 60 seconds. Go ahead and take 2 minutes. It was a Peter Bleakley 2 minutes, which turned into 7.5 minutes. But Peter's awesome.
Hi, Jules.
Yeah,
How's
Jules.
it going?
Yeah.
Hi, Jules.
Great. Good to see you here.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't going to make it because I was watching it since I got off of work and, listening to it on the way on the road, and I had to come home, decontaminate since I work in the medical field, and then make sure my dog stayed quiet.
So, Jules, when did you first start hearing of Mormon Stories?
Well, it all started off actually with Exmo Lex, but some of his John Dehlin's episodes started coming by. But at first I found his episodes kind of hard to listen to, and I think I can compare it to something that I found it hard to watch at first. I don't know if you guys ever watched the Arrow TV show, and if you started it after the first season, it's hard to understand. So,
what TV show?
The Arrow.
The Arrow.
Oh, The Arrow.
Yeah. So if you start watching it in season 2, you won't understand it. You have to go back to season 1 and start it from the very beginning. And whenever I would catch John Dehlin's episodes, I would start them, like halfway through, so they weren't making sense to me. So eventually I saw Exmo Lex on one, and then I watched it, and it caught my attention. It led me down a rabbit hole, even more, because then he started talking about all the many things. As I was a convert, I started learning about things that I didn't know about, and it was just, all these new things. And so I've been listening for years and it's just all the information he has given has been great and informative. And I think even listening to what his doctorate was about, that had to do with the LGBTQ plus community, was, inspiring even more to, continue listening, and was, it just gave me more interest, I think, into figuring out more of what the church was hiding. And, and I think it's led me to the community here. I obviously join in on Tuesdays with all of you. And I think the first person that found me was Joe. One day I'm doing one of my streams, and then all of a sudden, I guess I was talking something, post-Mormon, and Joe finds me. And so I think from listening to, John's episodes, it's brought me to this new community, which has been awesome. I think I've enjoyed the post-Mormon world more than my time in the church, because it's given me a whole new family, and that's what I've really found. I think we have a great community going here, and it's all stemmed from kept watching his episodes to leading to, finding this community. And every time I listen to one of his episodes, I just learn more and more.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful tribute to him.
Very good.
So if there's anybody in the audience that wants to hop on and say something about how Mormon Stories has benefited them and how much they appreciate John's longevity, feel free to come right in. I got the link in the chat. And let's see. Tim, do you want to tell us about what Tuesdays with Tim is going to be coming up?
We're going to talk about it. Excuse me. Just a minute. We're going to talk about an inconvenient faith. Hope everybody watches the episode so we can talk about it.
There's a lot
I
of
just listened to 5 hours and almost 6 hours, well, 6 hours of listening to John while I was listening to you guys. We talked about it. So
there's all kinds of faith in the world, but the LDS faith is incredibly inconvenient.
yes, it is.
Well, I'm glad that you're watching them all so that you can guide the discussion.
You need to watch them too, Randy.
I am. I'm trying.
That's
Okay.
the homework.
I can.
That's your homework.
That's the homework. Actually, you know, I was watching I did get to watch a little bit of the endowment one. And when you guys were talking about the part where the guy was on the floor, I've actually watched a documentary that has to do with something in the Masonic ritual.
Yes.
Yes, it has to do.
It's what is it? The lion grip with the
Yeah.
bone.
Yeah, where someone simulates death.
Yep. Rising up Hiram Abbott.
Yeah.
Randy knows that. He's done that.
So yeah, I was like,
Yeah, that was my role in the live sessions.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I didn't get on this Tuesday, but yeah, I'll watch that, Tim.
Okay. I got some dates wrong in there. Anyway, I got some dates wrong, but that's okay.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'll head out to give other people.
Right. Take care.
All right. We'll see you.
Good to see you, Jules.
Good to see you.
And we
have
have
you moved yet? Oh, Brother Jones.
Brother Jones is going to share his story. We'll do that right now for the next 5 minutes.
Gene, thanks for asking me to share my thoughts, and I want to congratulate John on his 20 years as you're doing this sort of tribute to his work. So yeah, congratulations. It's quite a feat. I don't think there's many podcasters out there who've been going 20 years on YouTube, but I do want to say, give a little story. I actually emailed John right after I discovered him, not really knowing a lot about him or his history. I discovered that we were in the MTC together. He was maybe 4 weeks ahead of me. And who knows, maybe we bumped into each other in the cafeteria line or something, but back in 1988. I do want to just share a brief story about my discovery and how this came about and sort of the intensity of it all, which I think many people can relate to. I'm not going to give a lot of detail on this, but I happened to be in Hong Kong at the time when an old mission buddy found me online through a username that he kind of recognized. And he said, I think I know you. And so we began talking. I hadn't really become open with anybody about all this. And as he was willing to share his name and everything, I knew exactly who he was. And so I opened up to him and proceeded. He kind of gave me a bit of his history because we hadn't really interacted at all for 20 years, more than 20 years. I proceeded that night after work during the day to pound out an 11-page letter to him. And it was just, I'm sure many people have gone through this experience where they just have this stream of consciousness and they want to tell. This is, I think, one of the geniuses of John's channel, Mormon Stories, is he's tapped into this intense experience that people want to share. They want to relate, and they want to relate it to people who are willing to listen. So I pound out this letter, and I want to. This is in March of 2018. Telling basically my story to this friend, and on page 6 of this letter, I mentioned about a year later I ran across a podcast called Mormon Matters. Okay, I was seeking deeper and more interesting discussions and knowledge of Mormonism. If there was one thing I not had in where I was living, which was not Hong Kong, but nearby, was not had in this area, was deep discussions. I was hungry for some intellectual stimulation. This podcast, again, Mormon Matters, opened my mind to many things, and I began to see the value of having a very nuanced view of religion, of the church and of God, etc. I felt a sense of higher understanding. I even became much more sympathetic to the issue of homosexuality after listening to a BYU professor explain the science of it. Now that was on Mormon Matters. You could probably find that. If I'm not mistaken, Mormon Matters fell under the Open Stories Foundation. So I go on a little farther in my letter. I said, in late 2016 or early 2017, I dusted off my mostly unread copy of Rough Stone Rolling. I was very surprised by 2 issues discussed. And, there's many in that book. In early 2017, I stumbled upon a YouTube video of this recent RM telling his story of being sent home and his post-mission life and questions. Then another story of a gay kid who got sent home. These stories captured my attention. I had discovered Mormon stories. I was enthralled to listen to people tell their story. These were people I could totally relate to. Everything they said, I recognized. The culture, the lifestyle, the struggles, the guilt, the shame, the good, the bad, and the ugly. These were my people. They were speaking my language. Anyway, I go on. I mentioned the book of Abraham and so forth. And farther down, then came the story of Tom Phillips. I was dumbfounded. In my entire life of paying attention to the teachings of the church, considering myself a pretty devout member, I had never, ever heard of this ordinance called the second anointing. The elitism alarms were going off in my head. It was this story that pushed me to a new view. And John uses this term a lot, which I think is really the most appropriate way to say it, that the church is not what it claims to be. So this was, goes back to 2017, early 2017. And it's been a pretty interesting ride since. I've met John a few times at a few events, but he doesn't know me from Adam, nor should he. I do think he's done some pretty incredible work in this community. At the very least, he has given people like us a platform for sharing our experience, which sadly is often traumatic. So anyway, congratulations, and I wish you all the best. I suspect there'll be many more interesting things in years to come. Anyway, best wishes, and 20 more years.
Good job, Brother Jones.
Excellent job, Brother Jones.
So you guys chat for a little while. You could tell people your experience with Brother Jones for a little bit, and I'm going to find one last clip to run.
Brother Jones. I want to know, Gene, before you do that, if we were the Godhead, I think Tim obviously would be God. Do you want to take the Holy Ghost or Jesus Christ? As the pregnant pause happens, I don't think he's even hearing me.
What do you want to be?
I kind of want to take the Holy Ghost role because, I could creep around and spy on people and they wouldn't even know I was there.
And you can get in everybody, right?
Yeah, I could get into whoever's brain I wanted to. Jesus is resurrected and he's got this light glowing around him, and it's pretty obvious when he walks into a room, but as a Holy Ghost, I could creep around a little bit. And
you could be the Holy Ghost.
So, just a very short while ago, before you came, Gene excused himself, and I think he may have gone to powder his nose or something and left me here all alone on stage, and it was very scary.
No.
Very spooky.
No. Yeah.
I had to, it's like when a guy's on stage and his partner has to leave all of a sudden. And so he's got this audience in front of him and he has to come up with something to say into the microphone.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. Oh, he is listening.
And
Yeah.
what did you say?
I said stuff. I don't remember, but I kept the ball rolling. And then Carrie Schertz came on, Backyard Professor. So I popped him on, and then I wasn't alone anymore.
Cool.
But it's kind of like I felt like such a big boy.
I kind of thought I must have thought I was playing Peter Bleakley's 7-minute story, but I was really only playing a 3-minute story.
Right? Yeah, you kind of left me hanging, but that's okay because.
So here's somebody prettier than us.
Well, who isn't?
That's right.
Emily
Who isn't?
Grayson. I think she has another name, but I can't remember it right now.
I love her stuff on Facebook.
So here she is.
Hey, John, it's Emily Grayson. I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done. When I was transitioning out of the church, your interviews gave me a place to land. Mormon Stories honestly kept me sane, and your interviews showed that I wasn't alone, and I wasn't crazy for what I was feeling. And I can't count the number of times that I was listening while doing housework, and my jaw is like hitting the floor, learning about the things that had been kept from our knowledge while in the church. Your passion and even your rants, which I personally love, gave a voice to the frustrations that I couldn't express while in a mixed faith marriage or mixed faith family. And more than that, your platform, it gives validation and belonging at a time when so many of us desperately need it. Because of your work, I became educated about the parts of the church on which I had never had true informed consent. And I found community and strength and hope for life after Mormonism. The way that you give people a platform to share their stories gives us a language for what many of us are carrying inside. So truly, thank you for everything that you've done. You've made such a difference in my life.
I am agog. I loved the graphics she put in there.
She did a great job.
That was great.
You can tell she's a lot more technically advanced than we are.
Yeah, well, we're at the 3-hour mark, and Randy had to play with me not on in the frame for a little while. I had to start the show while Randy was on his way home from doing his taxes and got stuck in traffic.
Oh,
and so there's that. Thanks to Anthony Miller, who started the show off with me. I was expecting a lot of help doing the show. I was expecting a lot of hope too as well.
You were hoping for help.
But yeah, Maven took ill. She was going to help.
Oh, no.
Megan took a flight out of the country just to get away from helping out. No, she didn't. She was on her way to Denver, Colorado to go to the Comic Con for
CrimeCon.
CrimeCon.
Yeah, she was dressing as Professor. But I can't think of someone. I was trying to think of. I missed it by
Miss
that
Marple.
much.
Maxwell Smart.
Yeah, Maxwell Smart. That's right.
She was dressing as Miss Marple.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I hope this was a success. All the people that came on board, it was great to hear everyone. I hope that we could do more shows like this in the future. So, but at least, 20 years from now, we'll do the 40th anniversary for John, but maybe we'll do some other things too.
Thanks, Gene. And thank you, John, for giving us this opportunity to celebrate your 20 years. And thanks to everyone who attended. And Tim, as always, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And it was a super nice surprise to have Sandra Tanner on. She definitely
royalty.
She is like the giant that just was looking for truth, just was trying to get to the documents. What do the documents say?
Yeah.
Why did some of the people leave the church in the middle 1830s? Because why did they leave? Because the church was changing. It wasn't what they joined when they first joined with Joseph Smith. And they were wondering how could these things change? And so anyhow, it's we're on our way to, what's the next holiday?
Veterans Day.
Wait, no, Halloween.
Right? Halloween, then Veterans Day, and then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas.
Well, Shoot, that means summer's over.
Summer is going to be over in 3 weeks.
Yeah, but this is the unofficial end of it was Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Yeah, like that's when we used to go to school when we were kids.
Yep, that's right.
The day after
That's
Labor
right.
Day.
Day
And
after
I
Labor
think
Day.
kids around here have been in school for a month already. And it's the same school district.
When you live in Spokane, you don't want to see summer end. Because we tend to skip fall and just go straight to winter.
Straight to winter.
Yeah.
Like in the Holy Grail.
So
Right.
Do you get snow on your jack-o'-lanterns?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes all of my Halloween decorations get snowed on.
Wow.
So there you go. Well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Nobody's coming on. We'll just head